Hello, and welcome to another horrific review. I'm joined once again by Dylath and Pirate as we continue our look into the Alien franchise with Alien 3. Directed by David Fincher, this film tells the story of Ellen Ripley, who crash lands on Fiorina 161, a maximum security facility where she discovers she has unwittingly brought along an unwelcome visitor. This movie was made on a budget of 60 million and brought in 159.8 million at the box office. Greetings, chaps, and welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Here we go.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Yeah, the final film in the Alien franchise.
Yeah, they didn't make any more. Yeah, I've got the Doom one. That's like still in the plastic. Only breaks it if I absolutely have to if we can avoid getting there.
Probably best to leave it there.
Oh dear. This was an interesting choice. David Fincher, looked into him before this movie. The only thing he had done before were music videos and adverts.
Yeah.
And this film nearly ended his career. Strangely. Yeah.
Bit of a jump.
Yeah.
It was kind of last minute though, wasn't it?
Well, I think there'd been, I think Rennie Harlin had been signed on at one point. He who ended his career with Cutthroat Island. He was, I think, scheduled to direct at one point and dropped out. And I think there was somebody else before him even. Oh yeah, I guess David Fincher was a last minute addition. Probably nobody else wanted the job. Who knows?
Which is a bit of a strange one considering the franchise. Like two strong films.
Yeah.
Like Alien Aliens, two strong films, strong franchise, fan base is there. You'd think like most directors would be jumping at the chance.
I think there were script issues, weren't there?
Yes, there were numerous ones.
Yeah, which was probably why you had so many people not wanting to touch it.
I can't remember which one
with no. Yeah, it's like an unfinished script. I mean, it on a franchise where you had two very successful movies, and you've got this one
with two well-known, high-rising directors. So it's not like if it had been like I don't know Sharknado 27, I could get it. You know what I mean? Or Tremors 59. It would have made sense that right, we're having trouble, but. Considering the cast and Sigourney Weaver, Ghostbusters all been out at this point.
Yeah, I think Sigourney she was a producer as well, wasn't she? Executive.
She was. Yeah, she was executive producer. So it wasn't like
yeah. I mean, it has to be that. I know that because there'd been a few scripts knocking around, and I think that obviously somebody had dropped a basic story. I think it was it Dan O'Bannon? Did he do the story?
It was William Gibson.
He came up with a script, I think. But I don't know if that was based on an idea.
There were two versions of William Gibson's script, which was more direct continuation of Aliens with all three characters. So Newton Hicks were alive in that one, and that had the UPP in it, and all that shit, all the sort of conflict between the United Americas and the UPP, and experimentation with aliens and stuff. And then of course there was Vincent Ward, who wrote his Wooden Planet with monks.
Oh, that's right. It was supposed to be a monastery.
Yeah. I'm not sure which came first. I mean,
I thought that was the original idea. I mean, I could be wrong, but I was kind of.
I think so, but I'm not sure. It does seem to be that way, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm not sure where the William Gibson one fits in.
5 minutes.
No.
Because I mean, there's obviously elements of the Vincent Ward's one makes it into the actual
certainly the monk
yeah, the monk idea,
yeah has remained.
But
the Wooden Planet,
no.
When you see something like this and you see that there's something wrong on the screen, when you're watching it. You know there's something fundamentally not there. That's what.
Yeah.
What happened here? Because it's not a. It's not just a. It's not like it's a bad movie in terms of just a badly
No.
written. You know
And
something.
there's a good film in there trying to
Yeah.
get out, isn't there?
You know there's something not gone right. You know there's
Yeah.
some sort of conflict, and it's really obvious. And usually these type of movies, funny enough, a couple of weeks time I'm going to be doing the Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies, and there's a whole story behind that trilogy, and it's so obvious on screen. Oh, there's something
Unfinished
not right
script once again. That was the
there.
yeah.
And that's usually what it boils down to. The storyline, because we can forgive special effects, we can forgive actors, all sorts of things, but when the story's not there or the story's all over the
I
place,
think there was a completed story, wasn't there? The Vincent Ward story. It was complete, and they were all set to roll, and they were supposedly really happy with the fact that it were going to be totally off the wall, completely different. And studio supposedly had given them free reign to do that, and then I think there was a change of management or something. Some new people came along, and they didn't like taking risks, and then that basically scuppered all the Vincent Ward's original script.
I mean, weird. I mean, it does sound pretty gonzo.
Funding and all sorts of stuff.
The Vincent Ward script sounds a little, maybe a little too far fetched, a little bit too crazy, even for a science fiction film. Considering the other two were relatively grounded, I suppose.
Yeah. It was weird. It is weird that they're like that they were gonna. I mean, like I said, from what I've seen, they seem to be all just totally, fully 100% on board with the idea of doing this totally off the wall, completely different wooden planet thing. It was, but like I say, I think from what I can tell, the only reason why it didn't go ahead is because there were changes at the studio, and the new people coming in didn't want to take financial risks.
Got scared.
They got scared because it was so different. So so it got essentially scrapped.
And that's the problem. Every time a studio starts interfering with something, it never goes well.
No.
Yeah.
I mean
that's famously so with this film. I mean, this is one of the big producer interfering or studio interfering disasters, isn't it?
And you can see it. It screams at you because when you're watching something, it's just not landing, and there's something being pulled out. And even if it was an off-the-wall story, if it worked, you'd be on board.
It's strange because I mean, if it had gone ahead, it wouldn't have been. Would it have been an Alien film anyway? Because it was so. It might have been good, but I don't think it would have been.
No,
I don't think it would have been. It would be just like a completely different universe almost. I mean, wooden planets.
Yeah,
it's like just.
But
really
you might have
wacky.
once again, if the story was told.
Oh
correctly,
yeah.
You might have went along. What happened here, though, is you've got this sort of confusing film that really annoyed a lot of folks.
Yeah,
and
there was a lot of. It got a lot of stick when it came out, didn't it? And oddly enough, I hadn't. This is one I hadn't watched this one as much as the other two.
You don't, because you don't feel right watching it. Something's nagging at you when you're watching
strange. But I watched it again last night, and it was a lot better than I remembered it being.
I do quite like it.
Yeah, it's
got some terrible holes in the plot, but
I mean, yeah, there are
just
towers. But I mean, and they do just try to gloss over them. Well, the whole setup, I think, is probably a little bit of a weird.
Well, it's a massive shift in tone, and what we get here at the beginning, we get 2 exposition dumps at the beginning and the end of the movie.
Yeah,
which is completely out of kilter. At least even when you have 2, because I'd say they're 2 different styles of director. Ridley and Cameron are different styles, yet they managed to carry the story forward, and they managed to keep you in universe.
Yeah,
and then we'll go to this, and that's where I found it interesting that this guy's a music video director, because it really does feel like a music video. he's showing, not telling, or telling, not showing.
Yes, yeah.
He's, he's trying to fit it. It feels like it's a 3-minute music video trying to be an alien.
I mean, do you remember the exposition of like the opening credits where it's interspersed with scenes of what's going on? Do you mean that? Is that the bit?
Very rushed and
well, which I didn't mind that as much, because I mean the alternative would be a much longer scene, perhaps with the bishop, the remains of Bishop, where he would have basically just told her everything. She kind of does anyway, right?
Or a bit more of a scene at the Sulaco, because right, this is a warship.
Yeah,
I think that's about to confuse me. This is a marine warship. This is designed, to take cannon fire. And one thing that I think the Alien universe, especially as it went on, could have done with is a space battle. I think we need to see that, like the UPP and US.
Well, you could have seen something like that.
I mean, that was so the William Gibson script. There was stuff like that in that.
And if there was a war brewing and that was a thing, and the Sulaco got hit and then ejected, that would actually have made more sense.
Yeah.
Something, like that, or how.
But there's also
a face hugger.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the problems with it. I mean, when you see in Aliens, when you see them in the cryo chambers, it's this big, it's this big open space. But for some reason, they're in cryo in an escape pod.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they in this? Why are they in the cryo in an escape pod?
I mean,
and there's two eggs stuck inside. Where did they come from? Where did they come from? And how did they get out? Why are they in an escape pod when they were? They should have been in the normal.
I mean, I kind of figured that perhaps you'd have that whole. I mean, it would make sense if you had like these cryo chambers, that they would actually be the escape pod, because half the time you're in cryo sleep, right? Most of the time when you're in space, so therefore it would make sense for them to actually be in an escape pod that gets ejected. So I can forgive that. It's just
the ones in Alien. It's like where you see them in the.
Well, that's
it's a big open area. It's not the
when you saw them in the Sulaco in Aliens.
Yeah,
what you see that gets left behind on the planet is a lot smaller than the bay that they were all in, because they were all the Marines were lined up in those. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah,
and this is where the logic centers, especially if you're an Alien fan, if you watch the first two movies, even the casual cinema goer knows something isn't right. And it's things like this, though it's not bad, it's the plot holes that actually gnaw at you. And then you don't have a comfortable experience watching a movie, because you're like, this isn't right. Something's not, and you mightn't be able to articulate it. You mightn't be like the normal cinema goer isn't going to be like us and sit and go over every detail.
Yeah.
But something's not right. It doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's a clear case of it. This has to happen because story. Otherwise, there's no film. And that's kind of the issue.
People trying to, in things like Reddit posts where they're trying to like piece together the history and the connections between the films. And I remember reading one. And there were some people are positing the theory that Bishop was actually still working for the company, and he was like lying. He was just leading Ripley astray, and Bishop brought eggs onto the Sulaco. This is what people are trying, but it's like that. But no,
I mean, when they interact later on in Alien 3, when she kind of switches him back on, you don't get that impression that he was trying to screw her over or anything like that. He definitely seems to actually care about what happened to Ripley and Newt and everybody, right? So
yeah. Oh,
that doesn't really follow.
It's people just grasping at straws, trying to stitch things together.
Yeah.
It's like Disney fans today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're it's almost like it's a desperation, battered wife syndrome or something. Oh, it'll be all right this time. Really loves me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, and they make it worse, because then you can understand, you can suspend disbelief for the time of the movie, but when you step out of it and you're going, something didn't happen here.
Yeah.
You know you're dealing with a human being. You know something's went wrong in the background, and that's fine. Okay, no, didn't think of it. Fair enough. But when people try that desperate to grasp, and then today it gets more aggressive. You know what I mean? Thankfully, this was back in the 90s where the internet, imagine this coming out today in today's environment, people would be losing their jobs because you'd have the fanatical foaming at the mouth fan would be like actually trying to get you ruined because you disagree with them.
Yeah.
I think they would have been better if they'd just cut the entire that first 5-10 minutes from the film, just started with them. They were just on this planet. I think if they'd just just left it unknown how it happened instead of that terrible.
I mean, it didn't have to be Ripley, did it?
No, it didn't. No.
At the end of the day, it didn't have to be Ripley, but it did because.
Isn't this where the?
But it's weird. I mean, they wanted Ripley. They were so. Insistent they wanted Ripley. Yet they kill Hicks and Newt off. It's like what? It's like.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been done. I mean, for shock value, I mean, there's probably a lot of other machinations going on behind, in the boardroom and stuff with things like. I know that Michael Biehn was he was threatening to sue at one point for them using his likeness and stuff like that without his consent. But I don't know if he was ever approached to be in a sequel, and he turned it down or anything like that. I get the impression he wasn't, which is why he was a bit pissed off when they were, because they apparently built a full model of Hicks.
Oh, right.
For the death, basically, so you could see him dead.
Yeah.
But he threatened to sue them if they used it, and so
which is actually fair enough,
Well, it was, yeah. I think it was more to do with originally. Hicks was supposed to, his body was supposed to be there, but he had a chest burst to come out of him. And that was the bit that he didn't like. He didn't want Hicks to go out that way. So they basically had this beam go through him during the crash or something like that. Which I guess he objected to less. But I mean, you don't see his face or the face of the mannequin that they put there for him.
No, it's just in the excuse me. In the extended one, it's just this mashed up body. It's just like teeth and gore.
Yeah. So, whether or not he'd ever been approached to be in a sequel, I mean, if the William Gibson script had come off, then he would have been, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I don't really understand where that fits. And
it's weird because they did the radio play based on that. Well, the audio drama based on that script. It was actually not bad.
It is. It's good.
It may have been better than what we got.
I mean, it was a bit generic, I guess. I
guess potentially, yeah. But it was finished.
Yeah.
This is a feeling of not being finished, of just being thrown together, and right, let's do something, and it screams at you when you're going through it.
I think there were moments where they were filming scenes, and then the very next day they found out that the script had changed and that scene was getting scrapped.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that going on apparently. I think David Fincher was taking a lot of the rap for it potentially. I guess he was a new director, right? So this may have been the studio having
he's easier to roll over because he doesn't have what they wouldn't have got away with the likes of Ridley or Cameron, because they would have just
certainly not. No.
The sort of roll over. And this is what's happening today, actually. If you think about the directors that put in movies, they put like multi-million-dollar projects, they put first-time directors in. The reason being there, but they put them in because the studios can just boss them about.
Easy to control and manipulate, maybe.
And then that's why these movies come out and they're just awful, because it's not directed. The cast the director rather than hire them, and it's a studio production of your latest Happy Meal. Whatever.
Well, they describe it as filmmaking by committee now, isn't it? That's what they describe it as. So.
And you can see that happening here. You can see that we need Sigourney Weaver because this franchise can't carry on without her. Not understanding that the franchise is bigger than the actor. No, but
Yeah.
anyway, I love Sigourney Weaver, all was well. But the
Oh, yeah,
fact
and she's fantastic in this film.
yes,
She's really good as always.
does her best, she's
Yeah.
really giving it all. Actually, that's not the worst thing about that. The acting's actually like people are trying to sell it.
I mean, I think the cast actually
Yeah, it's good cast.
really
It's
good.
really good.
Yeah,
Almost
especially since
well
most of them were British as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and obviously character actors that we've probably seen on British TV screens for years before. Pete Postlethwaite, people like that, and
Fucking Charles Dance, and he's in
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
kind
Charles
of minor
Dance,
role.
yeah. Well, he did really, yeah.
Yeah.
So they all did a really good job. I quite liked the characters that they all developed. I think they all did a really good job
David
with what they
Glover,
had.
he was well known at the time.
Yeah. And I don't
think
know.
Flipping what's God, that Doctor Who.
I like the
that?
I like the setting. I think the setting
Paul
is
McGann.
really good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I think the setting is I think it's really good. It really works well.
Well, I don't know. Is this part of that tonal shift that Colin was talking about earlier? I was thinking about it. In the first two films, there was a very kind of retro futuristic look. I mean, it's retro futuristic for now. But I don't know. I kind of was getting the impression of like a UK northern industrial town in like the mid 20th century.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I was getting from
it does. It really does.
From this, especially with the actors all being British.
Yeah.
And it was quite grimy and it just had that kind of
like a
aesthetic.
steelworks, wasn't it? Well, it was.
Yeah, it was. It was. So it could have been.
Oh, Leadworks, yeah.
And so the whole thing had this kind of vibe.
Yeah, and they're like some of the outdoor shots where there's kind of like look like shipyards with old abandoned shipyards with the cranes along the coast.
Yeah,
it did. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that was definitely. but it didn't feel necessarily set in the same universe as the previous two films.
No, because
for that reason,
they're on a planet. Everything else is taking place in space.
I guess that's true. But the technology that was around didn't quite seem to be.
No, there was no technology.
There's none.
That's right. It
could have been from the not from that sort of 70s futuristic tech, but it could have been from the genuine 1980s.
That's right. Yeah. I was looking at like the metal frame beds, like in the infirmary, for example. It just kind of gave you the idea of being like a hospital ward from the 1960s or something. I don't know. It was weird.
I think what you needed was a smart, like what they did cleverly in the first two was a smattering of like the computer technology, consoles. The only hint of alien was the cryo chamber, and then once that was ejected, done.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And I'm
then again, there was
a recycled shot.
There's supposed to be the thing that the old place had been like shut down, abandoned, and almost everything stripped out, wasn't it? I mean, it was barely functioning.
It was a weird premise as well. So this is a Weyland-Yutani run enterprise, and Weyland-Yutani was going to shut it down, but the prisoners who had found religion asked, "No, please, can we just keep it open and run it?" That makes no sense.
No,
well, I mean,
I'm not sure. They were actually running it. I don't think they were running it anymore.
If they were running it as a lead factory and it was productive, and they were making a profit for the company, but the fact that the company was shutting down means it wasn't making a profit.
No, I don't think they were running it though.
No,
I think they were just essentially just
the
like
machinery
caretakers.
I mean, they kind of allude to the fact that this stuff hadn't been used in a while, in quite some time. The other thing that I thought though is that well, if you had a bunch of murderers and rapists, etc., or convert, former murderers and rapists, why not just leave them on a planet that's costing you very little to keep them there or whatever, if anything at all? At least they're not out in the general populace.
But maybe more running the facility. They'd obviously be transferred to another facility. And once again, this is where you get a peek into the universe, but you don't. you know,
Yeah.
so they have penal colonies, they have, you know, it's almost like deportation again. It's that sort of, but we get no more about it.
No.
Did they mention whether or not these guys were they there for life? I can't recall.
Yeah, there were life
whether that was
sentences.
So it's not like their sentences were over and they could. Yeah.
No,
I mean you
there
don't
were-
just
there
get
were
to say. Yeah. Yeah. We're closing the prison down. Oh, can we just stay here?
I mean,
It's a
they were
bit strange.
indentured workers. I mean, weren't there? I mean, it wasn't a prison as such. There were indentured workers, but like
It was the same
you
as
know,
I think it was the
convicts.
same premise as
working
deportation,
convicts.
wasn't it? Australia, like in
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah, that
was
kind of
along
thing. Yeah.
That premise.
Yeah.
At least, that's the impression I got anyway.
But
I mean,
then
it's
again,
like you said,
we're the only ones that draw
it doesn't
reference
go
'cause-
into any great detail. It doesn't really explain everything about it.
No.
It just kind of hints.
But yeah, but you have that with the previous films as well,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. It is an odd thing.
the idea of the penal colony is fine. The fact
Yeah.
that they were closing it down, so that means it wasn't viable. Like the only reason the company would close something down is if it was costing them money.
Yeah.
But the fact that can we just stay here? Yeah, fine, and we'll keep running supply ships because at an expense.
It is a bit odd.
It is, because at the end as well, you do get that little message, don't you, saying that it's closed down and all the equipment sold off for scrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
if they
to
hadn't
me-
stayed
Well,
there, if this hadn't have occurred,
that was more. I think that was more a case of supposed to be more a case of the company just like covering things up, wasn't it? Rather than
Yeah, but at the same time,
So,
there's
would they
going
have
to be
just
more than one
left?
penal colony. So to me,
yeah,
it would have been right. These are now all working here, and they would have transferred
yeah,
over to the
yeah,
more productive
yeah,
one.
you're kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
you're still in prison, guys.
Yes.
yeah.
You don't get to
But
you don't get to choose your prison.
I think that little sign-off thing at the end, it was just supposed to be, this is a company cleaning.
them covering
Yeah,
it.
cleaning
well, it was
shop.
another
Yeah.
exposition dump, like the beginning,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and
suppose.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's. I mean, when I watched it the other day. I watched the extended one. What's it called again?
The assembly cut.
The assembly
the
cut,
assembly
which
cut.
is what got it is so much better. It's so much better than
Yeah,
I don't dislike the original cut, but the assembly one is just so much
Yeah.
better.
Well, I
I
think
just
that's
had the
got
DVD,
some
and
of
it's just
the
a normal.
the
Yeah,
footage
well,
that Fincher had filmed, but wasn't included in the final
Yeah,
cut.
yeah.
So,
I mean, it wasn't
despite
the
that, it's-
director's cut because he didn't.
No,
want
because
anything to
he
do with it.
refused to have anything to do
Yeah,
with it. Yeah, he basically just wants to forget the whole thing ever happened, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
Goes back to making music with music. Never doing that again.
Well, he went on to. Well, actually, a good point, actually. Because obviously he
yeah.
went on to make 7 after this,
Mm.
which was a great film, very well received. But I can't help but, as I was watching Alien 3 yesterday, the visuals were kind of reminiscent, I thought, of 7. So I thought that you could see elements of like what would become 7 in some of the visuals in the lighting and stuff like that. It just kind of and the whole quite depressing, bleak, nihilistic kind of atmosphere from the entire film.
Which is fine, but for standalone movies, that's fantastic. That's where you need a director's vision and let it happen. But when you've got an established franchise, there are rules, there are aesthetics.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to maybe it's not for every director to you know what I mean, get tied into a franchise. Some directors are better at it. Ridley Scott's best when you just give him everything, go, right, take this, put it on screen. Don't get any ideas.
And don't write anything. Just
You
direct.
don't write, you just
Don't do anything else,
translate that
Ridley.
screen. And some directors are fantastic at that.
I mean, the problem comes it goes back to the original script. That it's right from the off, it was nothing. It was nothing like had no connection to the previous films, really.
No,
not the style of it or anything.
no.
It was just other than it was almost like an alternate universe alien film. But then, of course, as things start falling apart, then there's desperately trying to bring them connections back in, connect it back to the previous films.
Yeah.
it's so obvious, and you can feel it when you're watching this movie. And that's once again, we're looking into this. We're 20 odd years later, nearly.
Yeah.
But at the time, you're just like, what is this? And the general audience would be expecting another alien movie, and then they get this, and you're like, so you can understand the sort of consultation about it, but you can also understand as well the fan base going, well, if we don't get behind this, we won't get any more alien movies, and they'll scramble to, justify it.
Yeah. I certainly remember when it came out. There was quite a lot of negative reaction to it. I don't recall there being much in the way of positive.
No. Well, people were expecting something along the lines of William Gibson's script.
I mean, potentially, yeah.
And also, I have to say, this is another example of Sigourney Weaver did it first. The whole shaved head thing.
Yeah.
And there wasn't... Do you remember they made the whole thing about Demi Moore and G.I. Jane?
Yeah, G.I. Jane, yeah.
Do you remember that was a whole... But Sigourney Weaver did it first. There wasn't that as much of a fuss about it.
No.
It was just, Sigourney Weaver.
When was G.I. Jane? I can't even remember what year that was. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
This was 91, I think. Let's have a look. Definitely.
This is 93. Alien 3 is 93.
93. 97. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
G.I. Jane was 97.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember they made the whole fuss. She shaved her head. And it's like, Sigourney Weaver's done it first.
This would probably this was buried by that time, though, wasn't it? That's why.
Yeah. Everybody's forgotten about this. They tried to.
This was swept under the rug.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Although there's quite a funny story about the fact that Sigourney Weaver had to wear a wig because a 2-year-old kid at the time hated the shaved head, and her husband didn't like it either. So when they had to do some reshoots, I think they had to pay her another $40,000.
She made a joke during the what was it, the special features? Well, if I have to shave my head, then you have to pay me more money.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's it. Yeah.
She was very matter of fact about it, and it's like,
yeah.
Do you know, I like Sigourney Weaver. She's not an arsehole, and she's
not.
She's a classic example, even as an actress, a strong woman.
Yeah.
Who knows her own mind, but at the same time, she's not going about with airs and graces.
Yeah, proper film star. Yeah, great.
Last of an era. When you see what goes about today, and even during her time, like the 90s, there's all these Hollywood starlets and pop stars that were up their arse, but she never had that about her.
No.
You just have this instant thing of warming to her, and it's I miss that about artists.
Yes.
Like, remember she turned up to this. She heard a high school actually done an alien production.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Turned up to it. Like, there's no reason for this to be in the news, but somehow she found out about it, that this school had done an alien production, and she went to a school play.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit special for a school play. I saw some of the images from it. It was fantastic. Yeah.
That's the sort of person she is, and so you don't see it being her. You can't blame her being up her own arse about this, or being a diva. She was all in the you're paying me extra money. I'm doing it though. I'm committing to the character.
Yeah. And I think she was also generally fighting for David Fincher as well, from what I gather. She was generally in agreement with him whenever he was making a decision, was fighting with the the studio over the film as well. And
you never hear of that today.
No. Well, people too worried about their own careers, I suppose, right?
Yeah, but there's people wanting to make a film, and they're like, no, look, let us make the bloody film, and it'll work. Have a bit of faith.
Yeah.
I think this is sort of the last, sort of the mid 2000s. This is the start, and this battle's always went on. But here's examples of when the creators lose to the studio and how films get made. Because these are two, I've said this in the channel loads of times, these are two polar opposite forces. the studio and the creatives, and how they ever get together to make a movie and how a movie actually comes out the other end is still a mystery.
Yeah.
Because it should not happen. You've got two completely different mindsets that somehow have to work together to put something out. And this is when the studio needed to be reined in and pushed back.
Yeah, I mean, they should be open to taking more risks, really, and trusting the people that are making the film as opposed to sticking their own oar in as if they know better.
Yeah, they don't, or else they just make the thumbs down. There's a reason a lot of these executives go nameless. Have you noticed they never get named?
Yeah, that's true.
There's, I think it would be the death of any director if they named an executive. I think the only time it's happened is Hellraiser.
Okay.
Where they named the executive. There's one in particular, I forget his name now, but they actually named the executive who, it's the last 4 films or something. They really stuck their oar in, and they actually were pissed off. The guy that does the special
and named and shamed him.
They named and shamed him, but that's never done.
Oh, I guess
because I think they know that that's the end of their career. If they actually put this executives in the spotlight, it's always the studio, it's always the executives. It's never the name, of whoever it is interferes. And they know who they are. They obviously have meetings with the people, so they know who they're talking to.
Yeah.
But there's a genuine fear in Hollywood of the executive types.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're the ones that they've got all the power, right, in terms of who's employed and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah. I just think it's an interesting. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. You don't find many people that get the opportunity to take risks, and I mean, you get people like Christopher Nolan, I suppose. Now he's probably one of the few now that gets to do whatever he wants, and people just throw money at him and hope for the best.
M. Night Shyamalan Bum had that, and he burned it. He was given that, whatever you want, and then he.
Yeah. I mean, he had 1 or 2 good films in him, didn't he? But
but then they let him have free reign, and then he just completely
just pissed
burned money like it was going out of fashion.
What was the last one? What was the last thing he did?
That knock at the door thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't. I looked at the trailer, and I'm sorry if I see Dave Bautista in a movie, I'm like, oh god, no, I can't be. I'm not in the mood for him today.
I think there's a lot of Avatar fans as well, quite like. I mean, talking Airbender type avatars. Airbender fans don't quite like Mr. Shamalama Ding Dong either. But
oh no, he really rubbed them up the wrong way, didn't he? This Tai Chi video, this 2-hour Tai Chi video.
Yes.
This wasn't that either. This wasn't spit in your face. I hate I hate this franchise. No. This is a frustrated movie of an idea being completely trampled on, and then not a better idea replacing it, all done last minute.
Yeah, 10 different writers, 10 different scripts we're just looking at. Some of them, we're just looking at some of the other scripts, and some of them are really good. Some of them sound really good. And they're complete, but there's some. I mean, there's one. It's like it's completely unrelated. A mining ship, and they're harvesting minerals from an asteroid, and they find a facehugger entombed in like amber.
Oh.
And then there's another one where there's some a colonial marine ship finds a Sulaco drifting in space, and then they recover facehuggers from the Sulaco. There's Ripley and everybody's dead, being killed, and then that one goes back to Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 completely different scripts.
Yeah.
And you'd think they would have a bit of foresight. Okay, there's enough ideas here for another 3 sequels. Let's stick with one idea and plan the next 2.
Why have they not used some of these? Some of these are like, I guess the plots, and they're really good.
The mining ship one, it sounds pretty good. But wouldn't it just be a recreation of the first film?
Well, yeah.
Which, maybe the fans would have loved. I don't know. Maybe they would have loved that. Maybe that's what they wanted.
I mean, I think that's what, like I say, I think that's what people wanted from Alien 3. Not a recreation of the original, but a proper continuation of Aliens. They wanted Aliens. They wanted Aliens 2. That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the war setting actually would have.
Earth War should have been. They should have done Earth War. That's what they should have done.
You think?
No, I think keeping Earth. The whole point of the universe is to keep it away from Earth. I think that's where that should have been the line that was never crossed, because that was always the fear of what happens when one of these things gets back to Earth. So keeping it in the outer rims, keeping it in the outer planets, and there's more than enough material there, storytelling material in the universe, so it doesn't reach Earth.
The Earth War comics were great though. They're really fantastic story.
Well, sure. I don't know if we'll ever get in that one, but Alien versus Predator was a brilliant comic. Yeah,
they were.
Look what they did to that.
I did like the first. I hold my hands up. I liked the first Alien versus Predator. The second one
in the pyramid was it in Antarctica or wherever it was.
But if I had been in the future on a different planet, that would have been, it would have still tied into the universe.
Yeah, I kind of just wish they'd kept the whole thing separate. I don't like.
Yeah, well, officially
separate. That would. Yeah.
Well, in the comic, it was set in the future. It was the Colonial Marines encountered the Predator first of all.
But they've never officially been in the same. They're all. I think it was the Andrew Gasker who does the Alien RPG, because he wrote an article on what's canon and what's not.
Right.
And so the AP, they're essentially three completely separate universes. So the AVP thing is something is its own thing.
Yeah, because it was a Dark Horse.
Its own thing. Predator is so the three Predators is its own universe. AVP is not connected to Predator or Alien, and Alien is its own thing as well. So there's three completely separate settings that are not connected at all.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of weird, because obviously there's the ending of Predator 2 where
Alien versus Predator was Dark Horse. I knew it because I loved Dark Horse comics back in the day. I was going, Alien versus Predator was Dark Horse comics, so that's their own universe anyway. They always take stuff.
Was that before a Predator 2 came out? Because obviously Predator 2 has the alien skull on the Predator ship at the end of that, right?
I think it was after.
So that was that just meant to be an Easter egg, or I think not really meant to say, this is the same universe, guys. It was just like a
yeah.
It was a nudge and a wink in the movie. And then obviously they decided, well, we're not going to make a film. Well, and the Dark Horse are brilliant at this, taking concepts and ideas and creating whole stories. But what they do is they keep it separate from the universe. So if it doesn't work, fine.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, that you should read that Andrew E. Gasker article, because he was employed as a continuity researcher for the films as well.
Brilliant, Darth, love it.
That would have been a film.
Yeah,
we could have made it a rom-com or something, couldn't they? Yeah,
it could be like the Addams Family, but instead of a thing,
it's like the Brady Bunch, but Ripley and Hicks, with their teenage daughter Newt. And Bishop as the butler. I like it. Yeah.
And you could have the canned laughter. So another person, like Jehovah's Witness, turn up the door and the face huggers around them, and they call it spot. The canned laughter every episode. There's more than enough. I don't know why they got so wound up or tied in knots with this. Was such an expansive universe. I think that's the confusing thing about it. And it's the plot holes because there's so many through this that it kind of jars you. So you can't even embrace, okay, this is the scenario now. Oh, there's another plot hole, and you fall down it, and you're like, it makes no sense. Yeah. Just even basic storytelling, that's where this falls apart.
Do you not think that what they tried to do in the end with this film was take elements from both the previous films and try and mash them together. You know, we kind of spoke in the other discussions we've had about two different types of films, Alien being very much a horror film and Aliens being an action movie. And here they tried to do both.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just kind of doesn't quite gel.
No.
When you have like these action movie elements suddenly happening in a slower paced film, doesn't it just make the slower scenes seem even slower? Maybe.
Yeah,
it doesn't mix.
End up
It
with,
doesn't mix well. No.
Yeah, maybe.
Like even the setup of the prison, it felt thrown together. Like if they're on their own, why bother with guards? You know, if the prisoners want to stay there. Now if it was just an abandoned facility and they were just left there,
Watches.
no, it would actually make more sense. You know, if the company just pulled up and left, and they went, well, do you know what? We've got our garden, we've got water. You know, we've actually built a community, and almost make it not quite the monastery, but they were self-sufficient, but they were abandoned, and the only thing stopping them going like Lord of the Flies is the fact that they had religion. That would have, you know, tied in. But the fact there was guards there was two guards that weren't armed, and I was almost done by commit. It just, once again, it's just not making sense.
I think there's, like I say, I think in the extended one, there's a little bit. It's still vague, but I think it kind of points towards filling in the gaps a little bit. I mean, they are, to a certain extent, they have been self-sufficient because they have in the theatrical version. There's no mention of that they have ox or these kind of like oxen type creatures, like oxes.
Oh, because it's like a one of those that gets infected.
Because that's what gets infected by the hook of the face hooker. That's where the alien comes from. It's not a dog. That was just patched in because they've I mean, that was obviously like, oh, we had a cat in Alien, so we have a dog now. But it was originally
no sense.
It was originally this huge, these oxen that keep, but they were dying. They were losing them. They were slowly all dying off because they'd all become infested with the lice, and so they were all these animals that they were using to for the meat and the milk and stuff. They were all slowly dying off. So there were hints at they had, you know, they were like self-sustained to a certain extent.
The lice and the head shaving.
Yeah. So that's what
all that. And actually, there's a bit where Ripley breaks open a pipe as well, and all of those things fall out of it as well, doesn't it?
She gives her alien head. That was actually the only real comedic scene. She gives her epilogue of "We have been together for so long," and blah blah blah, and then she goes "Fudump," and you're like,
yeah. I did wonder if that was something, because there's there's that other what's it called, that microorganism that's I think it's developed by the company to originally to eat oil. It was the bioengineered some lice or some microorganism that eats oil, and then it mutated and took over it and took over places like that, just destroying them.
Yeah, but even the setup of it being a prison,
it's a bit weird that there's like in the pipes.
If they were in a prison, there would obviously be a gate or some sort before the space. There'd be a way to keep Ripley away from the main populace.
Yeah,
you know, it was the whole. That's what I mean. The whole thing's jarring, and the fact there's only two guards. Why even bother with them? If they're leaving the prisoners on their own devices,
especially unarmed. I mean, what could they have done if these prisoners had decided that they weren't religious anymore?
Yeah,
just and going on a rampage
and things like this.
I mean, I think 85 does say at one point that he's leaving in a couple of weeks. So I kind of figured that was the point when the guards were all supposed to be going off or whatever. But it kind of makes you wonder why were they there? I mean, they must have had something to control. I mean, if it was a prison and a riot broke out, what would they have done?
Yeah. Well, they had nothing. They make
got nothing.
They make a
They were
point
like-
several times, don't they? It says like saying that they got no weapons at all.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
like a couple of some knives in the kitchen and a couple of fire axes. That's it.
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, once again, just a setup, isn't it, for the fact they've got nothing to use against this? 'Cause,
Yeah,
I mean, it is
yeah.
a single alien in this once again, like it was in the first film, a
Yeah.
single creature. And we've already seen that the weapons of that time period can easily take down an alien, as we saw in Aliens. You've got to somehow stop them from being able to instantly kill.
But it was
This-
done
this-
so
this
ham-fisted that you're, like I said, you're watching
Yeah,
this
it
and you're like,
makes sense. Yeah, it makes no
Doesn't-
sense whatsoever that there's no weapons on the planet, despite
No.
the fact it is a prison planet. Well, there's bad people there, and only one or two guards.
yeah, because they wouldn't.
What were
land
they? What were they
supply ship.
guarding? How were they guarding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they wouldn't do supply runs then because it would be too dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
There would have
Yeah.
to be like some sort of, like I said, some sort of separate entity that the prisoners do actually they run about freely, but they only go so far, and then it closes off, and then that negates the whole Ripley needing to shave her head and go in, and you know what I mean. You just get all these.
Yeah, she wouldn't have
problems,
needed to
and then-
interact with them at all. Yeah.
No, and then it makes once again it just makes no sense. Even them recovering the pod, it's company property. They're a company station. We had the whole debate about salvage
Mm.
in the first one, and we know it's very, very rigid, and people are that way. They don't just dismantle ships and throw things in the scrap.
No.
It's not done even in that universe because the company has it ingrained in these folks that it's actually not worth your while. It'll cost you in the long run if you mess with something belonging to us. So if it's got Whale and Yutani on it, you leave it alone and you get confirmation what to do.
Yeah.
Well,
So the fact
aside
that
from
they're
that,
taking
they'll
fish about
be-
and throwing them in a scrap heap and they're
I mean,
if they
they're doing
recover
this and
that, they're
doing
going to
that.
be getting, they recover that and inform the company. There's going to be getting loads of brownie points for doing that. And they're going to get a pat on the back, not
Yeah.
like throw
Yeah.
it on the scrap heap.
Well, especially something like Bishop, though.
Yeah.
Because obviously he would have information. I mean, they must have known, like, that he would have information about what happened, what caused the crash and stuff.
yeah, like
right?
the
Or he
fight,
could have
the
access.
fight, the black box. He's a equivalent. He's
Yeah.
a
Well,
he's
again,
got
it's
a
like
memory.
company property, and there's if they hand it over, then they're going to get they're going to get rewarded for it, aren't they? Not
And
like,
the
it's like-
company, obviously, they knew about it because they came to get Ripley, didn't they? Quite early
Yeah.
on. There was not supposed to be a supply run for 3 weeks or whatever it was, and then they're turning up in 3 days' time or whatever because they found out about Ripley. Yeah, so they'd have surely would have asked for the remains of the android that would have been able to tell them all about the alien queen and stuff, right? Because
yeah.
it was there.
I mean, the fact that they were going to turn up in 3 days is another thing altogether. I mean, how that where the hell were they? They weren't very far away. They were just waiting
Bishop
around the
says
corner.
the company knows everything.
I mean, considering how long it takes to travel distances in the like alien universe, I mean, and they were only
So they were already on their way.
just 3 days away. Hmm?
Yeah, they were already on their way. Because they'd planned the whole thing. The company know everything.
But this is once again, it's done so ham-fistedly
Yeah.
that you can't go, well, there's a reason. It doesn't make sense again in the universe. There's 2 films that have set the universe, and in what was that, Game of Thrones, they really messed up, and that was the big thing, was the logistics.
Yeah.
When they had an army that could travel.
How long did it take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the first episode, it's taken us months to get here.
And now it takes a day.
Yeah.
And that does matter. And people, there are edits on the internet, but general public relies on logic, and things need to make sense. And it's this grounding. You can only do the fantastical if you have the reality grounded. Like in fantasy,
It's got to be consistent.
That's always a
It has to
medieval
be.
setting because there's not really anyone that's being able to do. I know they tried in Babylon 5 or the Excalibur series, the Techno Mages, but the concept doesn't work with magic and stuff because it doesn't make sense in a modern reality. It's too difficult, So there's reason things are set in a certain universe. Sci-fi, you need to establish the big thing is the technology of the time and its limitations. You have to set that up.
Yeah, and it can be crazy. It's just got to be consistent, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing with the logic of the universe. But,
So hyperlight drives have to have their what is it? Battlestar Galactica did it well with the FTL. If that's not working, then they don't use hyperdrive because it could end up in the middle of a moon or a planet. Then Star Wars did it a bit, sort of hinted at it.
Yeah.
You had to make your calculations, otherwise,
you end up in the middle of a planetoid. So you have to have an explanation. Okay, in the alien universe, the cryo chambers, that's their method of travel because you don't travel at sublight speed, but
they still it does. It's still they still got there's got FTL travel in Alien Universe. It's just really but it's slow. It's still slow.
Yeah, it's faster than normal, but you have to use the cryo chambers. That's the only way to get around.
They have to use cryo chamber. I mean, for one, when they travel at FTL, they have to be in cryo because it's dangerous. It'll kill you. But yeah, the ships do have FTL capability though. Yeah,
All right. Yep. But that's just it. Okay, right. So it's explained and it makes sense. But once again, this movie it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
They have it as if I don't know if they said they'd moved from the outer rim to the sort of more colonized planets, and that things were more within reach of each other, might have made more sense. But they didn't bother with that. They just exposition dumped and just threw lines in to make the plot happen.
Yeah, like I say, they got so far and they're just like desperately just trying to pull things together.
Yeah.
To try and make it into some coherent whole, and it just wasn't.
And like I said, having the dog at a sort of prison planet, I could understand if it had been like they had, like the thing they had working dogs, and there's a couple of them.
Yeah,
it
was something like a Rottweiler, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was.
A Rottweiler.
So I did wonder, is it meant to be like a prisoner's dog or something?
It would have to have been a shepherd. Rottweilers aren't working dogs.
No, I don't. I mean, yeah.
Once again, that's a simple thing.
How did he get it? Yeah,
it's a simple thing.
They needed something.
It's easy to fix.
Yeah,
they needed something to infect, and they'd already cut out the ox.
But once again, about a thought. Okay,
it was.
I was an ex-guard. If it had been a shepherd,
yeah,
then you would have associated with a guard in prison and a working dog,
right? Yeah,
and your logic centers would have felt, when you would have forgiven it.
Yeah, but weren't Rottweilers kind of at the at the front in the news and stuff at the time as well as being.
Yeah, but like, once again, it doesn't make sense.
No. I'm saying they were the Rottweilers kind of in the public eye, weren't they, at the time, weren't they?
Actually, it's always been. If it wasn't flipping Rottweiler, any dog's a sweetheart. Like Rottweilers are flipping sweethearts.
Yeah. But I mean, there was that. I think at the time there was that thing. Like at one time where it were Doberman Pinschers that were like,
and then they should have had shepherds as well. They were the demon dog for a while, and now it's
exactly. But I think at the time it was, Rottweilers.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Once again,
it doesn't make
it doesn't make sense in this. No. A shepherd would have made more sense because then you'd automatically fill in the blanks yourself, and this is where storytelling comes into the fore. The audience is always very forgiving. You're always forgiven if there's a logic to the plot, and you'll happily fill in your own blanks. When you're having to reach and stretch and actually write your own story to fill in the blanks of a plot hole, that's when you know something's bad. Because not even the effects in this, and there's some bad effects.
Yeah, the effects are terrible.
You could forgive those.
Yeah.
But layer that on top of a bad story and just bad world building. Even the plot. You could even forgive the plot if the world building's good. June's a good example.
Yeah.
The actual story itself, by Frank Herbert, there's plots all the actual storyline is very simplified, doesn't make sense, but the world building's fantastic. So you forgive that part because the other parts fires up your imagination, and you'll happily do the legwork yourself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another films like that, that they've done those so well with the world. And you'll happily forgive things because your mind's going, oh, there's a possibility, you're really entranced in that, and you kind of forgive the storyline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess you could look at the original Star Wars trilogy for stuff like that, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah, because the story itself doesn't really.
The story it's nothing. Really, is it?
It's
Yeah.
the idea, the universe, the world, and that's where you'll happily fill in because you've got these concepts of going, wow, this is something I never thought of. What if? And you want to watch more to see what if, and then God,
And then
George
mess
Lucas
it up.
came out defending Bob Iger to remain the head of Disney. Did you see that?
What's that?
George Lucas just said to open his mouth again. He just needs to shut up. Said that Bob Iger should. There's this whole power struggle going on with Bob Iger and David Peltz.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware of this.
No, okay. David Peltz, he's what's known as an activist shareholder. So effectively, this apparently goes on. It's like a chief shareholder in the company. He's trying to buy more to get controlling stock of the company.
Yep.
And the board, they're trying to vote him and his group into the board, and Bob Iger is trying to keep control of Disney. And George Lucas has jumped in and gone, yeah, Bob's my man. Keep him in. He's done a brilliant job. You're like, go back to bed, George. You're drunk. And this isn't even that. This isn't even that egregious. This is well before that we hate the audience.
Yeah. Oh God.
Era of movie
this
making. This is where they're still trying to make good movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even that, you're prepared to forgive things when you know that something's being made. They want to make a good movie. You want to get behind them.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying that. I mean, we're kind of implying that this is a bad film, and I don't think it's.
I don't think it's bad. I think
it's not. It's not a great film. It's not a classic. It doesn't. It's certainly the weakest of those original three Alien movies.
Oh, it's better than anything today. Come on. You look at the crap
comparing this
shot on your screen today. This is absolute Shakespeare.
Yeah. So and so I mean, it sounds like we're kind of hating on this film, but we're not at all. Really, it's just that that there was a better film there.
Yeah.
And
we're explaining that the studio interference has caused these plot holes.
Yeah.
And we sort of know the story, and the fact that we're care enough to find out about the story 20 years later, we're still talking about this, and I still, I can still stick this on and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, even the mess that it is, it's still an enjoyable film. You can disregard those.
Prometheus. I think I've watched Prometheus about 2.5 times.
Yeah, I've watched it once. That was enough. Prometheus. Yeah. That's that. Oh God. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Are we ever going to get around to reviewing that one? Are we going to say that never happened?
We'll see what gaps we'll have in between.
Because that will just be 3 people hating on.
That'll be the whole stream, just going.
Yeah, you think we're dissing this one? You wait.
And the thing is, we're not blaming like I said, we're not even going, oh, David Fincher, you're an arsehole, you're this.
David Fincher, no, because
like,
we
David,
know.
He got a bad ride. Clearly
we know that
ride,
he's a great director. I mean, like I say, his follow-up film to this is Seven, which I think
and that's
it's a fantastic. It's a fantastic.
I have there's one I've watched in double digits at least.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's by the same guy.
Yeah. But once again, the fact that we're going, no, it's not his fault. What's went on?
Yeah.
And then we understand that he's actually fighting, and then when you find out the cast is fighting his corner with him.
Yeah.
So once again.
Yeah.
And that comes across on screen that they're trying to make a good movie.
Yeah. It's a shame.
That's what I mean. It's this conflict. You actually see it on screen, the conflict.
There's a good film underneath, potentially a good film underneath all this.
Well, it was all the script changes again. In fact, thinking about that, there was something I read. I think it was probably an IMDb, one of the little trivia things. They were talking about how they got a guy who was doing the script. He was script writing. Basically, every day somebody was phoning him from the studio and getting him to rewrite parts of the script. It got so bad that he wouldn't answer the phone. And David Fincher had arranged in the end that when he wanted to speak to this guy, he would ring twice, then hang up, and then ring again, just so he knew it wasn't a studio. Yeah.
Oh my
I
God,
mean, that's where we got to. It got to that stage, where they're just making these constant script revisions and expecting this poor guy to be rewriting all this
there has
stuff
to be a point in a
while
movie.
they're filming.
Yeah, there has to be a point in the movie. Right, it's go time. Stay out of it. You know, you have to have a sign-off point, and then the movie happens, and whatever will be. Because when has this ever worked?
Well,
In the history,
it can't really.
In the 120 odd years, is it 120 years of cinema history?
Could be, yeah,
something like that.
1918.
Well, I mean,
I
possibly goes
have
a little
no
bit
idea.
further back.
I
Independence.
think it might be, yeah.
Okay, we're hitting 100. I mean, we're nearly getting into 1.5 centuries worth of movies, right? Let's do that. Nearly 150 years worth of cinema. When has this level of studio interference ever worked?
No.
No.
You know that those who don't
it's
learn from
difficult to-
history are doomed to repeat it. It doesn't just mean warfare. It just means business
Everything.
operations, movie making. You know, I mean, there's a story here. There's a charted history of every time the studio jumps in and starts messing with the film while it's in production, it gets worse.
Well, it's a lesson that's never learned, because it's not just film industry, is it? It's you could say that kind of interference across any part of like life. It always ends up with things just fucked up.
Well, look, when you're trying to do a normal job,
people interfering, claiming,
logistics,
interfering in the business that people on the ground know what they're doing, and then people from higher up just come in and they have no idea what they're talking about, what they're doing, but have to stick their opinion in and force things down a way down a route that they think is better, when in actual fact they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
That's across the board,
thinking they know better than the people who actually know what they're doing,
and it's never changed.
No.
But the thing is, at least with movies, though, you see the end product, you see the audience review, and more importantly, you see the box office returns. And plus, this is the day of secondary sales still. So even if the box office had a fail, now this made a profit. Not 159.
It went too bad.
60 plus. So say 90, because you always add a third onto the budget for marketing. That's
it's marketing costs. Yeah.
So this made it still made a profit. But even if it hadn't, you still had the secondary sales, so there's still that consideration of longevity. I think we talked about this before. Back then, at least movie or filmmakers had the idea of, right, this still needs to make money in a year's time. People want to not just see it in the cinema, but they want to buy the DVD.
Yeah.
And the TV studios want to then buy the rights 2 years down the line to show it. You think like Sky Movies and stuff back? Is that still a thing?
I don't know, actually. No, I mean, maybe. Yeah, it must be.
But do you know what I mean? Do you remember even back in the day that you had the likes of Sky Movies here in the UK, and they bought the rights 2 years later to a movie. After DVDs came out. So there's always that thinking ahead of this needs to be rewatchable.
Yeah.
Or at least remarkable.
Yeah, but it's too late though. If they mess up at the box office, then the word gets out.
Yeah,
it's they're not going to get those secondary sales. So there's still that mindset of we'll have to get this right, and it still has to be good enough. Where now it's just like you forget what the movie is before you finish, because they don't care.
Well, these days films can get killed before it's even hit public release.
Yeah, it's The Crow.
That's
dead in the water. That's dead before it even goes out.
Yeah.
But then this is the thing: is like you say, these studios, they're not concerned about what's making the money back in 5 or 10 years time. Everything is now, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's what
yeah,
money they make
yeah.
now. And it's the same in any business right at the
Yeah,
moment,
it's
isn't
that
it?
mentality
Nobody's
across the
Yeah, but
board
there was
Yeah.
still the
everywhere.
mentality of
Yeah.
they had a 2-year window of a movie. Like I said, they were still
Yeah.
secondary scale. It's completely different now, but back then
It
there was
is,
still
yeah.
that, and you can tell in the quality of the movies because they knew that they had to think a 2-year
Yeah,
2-year
a
window.
plan.
It's obvious because it comes out on, you know what I mean, you look at 80s and 90s, and then once the DVD home market sort of ended, that's where the tonal shift happened, and they didn't care anymore. But they didn't think of the replacement because morons.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff
Is
just
this
gets.
is it the streaming sector then that is kind of
Yeah, but they haven't
caused
got a
this?
plan for it. If they just use the same model, okay, comes out in the cinema, a year later, then it goes to streaming. It would still work.
But they can't even decide, can they? I mean, they'll announce the
release it
film, and it's
simultaneously.
going. So
Oh,
we're
well,
doing this new
that's the
film,
thing.
and it's coming out in theaters. And then 2 months later, oh no, it's not going to theaters. We're going to release it on this platform. And then, oh, well, actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to release it on this. And then we go, oh, maybe we'll put it out there. And it's just like,
well, this is the weird thing you're getting now is that you're having these streaming platforms that are making the films now.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They are funding them, and they'll get a cinema release, and it may be 2 weeks, and then it's suddenly appearing on the platform as part of streaming. So you're not going to make that kind of money.
No, they've completely, once again, morons that don't have a clue how the industry works. And the thing is, there's a template that's
it
worked
takes away.
centuries.
But the idea is that they want to drag you to their platform. They don't care. They don't care about cinema, really.
No.
What they want is they want people coming to their platform.
The old mystique of cinema, it's just gone.
Yeah. The idea is that they're going to put a film out. They're going to spend a lot of money on your latest blockbuster movie or whatever. They'll stick it in a cinema for a couple of weeks, just because, you know, it's a big blockbuster movie, right? And then they'll have it on their platform, and everybody will come over to their platform because they want to watch this latest blockbuster movie.
It doesn't work.
But maybe, well, I mean, does it? Because
no, because Disney Plus
it makes money. The films are shit, but
Netflix doesn't make a profit. Once they stop their DVD, you know, they post the home DVD.
Yeah, the original, yeah.
HBO Max is the only one I think sort of managing, but it's even then it's barely scraping by, and that's why they hide the figures. These things are not making money. That's why there's so much spending, so much discontentation, because finally the capital ventures run out. So it's easy to do this when you've loads of venture capital and you can just dip into that pot and you're investors. But once that goes now, which we're at the point of, that's why there's so much infighting with these companies and trying to sell off parts. You're flipping Warner Brothers is trying to acquisition something else that's already gone broke, and it's broke, to hopefully make it a better package for someone else to buy. You know what I mean? They're trying all this scrambling, but instead of just doing the basics, and I'm no business person. But even I can see that this is fundamentally wrong, and it translates because people aren't, you know, they aren't getting more subscribers, they're losing them, and they're inflating the numbers with the free packages with phone deals and stuff, but then it's not equating the actual, like anytime I've worked in retail, I've always went against the corporate, you know, oh, we must do this, that, and that. I'm like, it doesn't matter, because none of this equates to a customer putting their hand in their pocket and putting money in the till. The only thing that matters is the customer doing that. All this crap, you know, and you know yourself, there's paperwork, there's writing things off a certain way and doing this, that, and the other, but it doesn't always equate to somebody putting their hand in their pocket and putting money in the till. I'm like, well, that's what directly pays my wages, not this fantasy of that you don't see in the office, and I've always went against that.
Yeah, but like I said, the companies are run by people who are just going for the quick fix, the quick buck.
Yeah. I mean, they want to line their pockets now, right?
Yeah, they line their pockets, just
then they can piss off. Yeah.
Just fabricate figures, make things look as you know, better than they are. Take as much money out of it, leech as much money out of it as can, and then just it don't matter then.
Jar Jar
Because
Abrams is
there
a
you go.
perfect example.
See, it's
Because
not just
them
film.
pe-
It
them
sounds like
people
politics
just-
already, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But it is
because
political.
Those
It's
people
very-
they just up sticks and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Just
No,
like
Jar Jar Abrams and Bad
leech
Reboot,
everything
they
from
did
that
for...
till it's just a corpse, a desiccated corpse,
Mm-hmm.
and then move on to the next thing, and it don't matter to them.
But eventually they run out of... it's the same as the con artists and the entrepreneurs and all that there. They eventually run out of people to fleece. Because people get wise to them. Abrams is a perfect example in Bad Robot because nobody will touch him now. Because they've discovered that the only people that make money is him. And he's been this like ghoul going around all these franchises and his company. And none of them have ever made profits. They've paid his company a lot of money and then he's moved on to the next one. And then eventually they've twigged on and now he's, they've frozen him out. He's become poisoned. So these people, I suppose if you're only in it for a short time and you've got a nest egg, but a lot of these people live lifestyles.
They don't care. They don't care if they if they get shut out, blocked. They don't care. I mean, they've
got a plan to get out.
They've never got to worry about financial matters ever again. Never.
Yeah, but the long-term damage is that larger companies.
Yeah, it does damage, but they don't care.
No,
they don't care because they can walk away from it. And
it's none of that. It's like you were saying earlier. There's a lot of them remain nameless, so they can
as well.
In.
Yeah. And Christ, people, this, not just in film industry, people do this thing and get golden handshakes for like destroying companies and businesses and.
Yeah,
that's and it's no different in this industry either, is it?
No, and they'll try and tell you they're better than you, and that's when you always have me and. I always look at this when someone's trying to gatekeep in terms of, oh, you can't do this, only I can. I tend to go, all right, okay, what are you up to? And I try and always peel behind, going, all right, is that your game? When IT, there's an industry that really has fallen. That look at the 90s and the innovation of IT, and it was because it's run by nerds. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, there had to be middle class people who've been to university could only work in IT. And look at it now, everything's a third-party company. Everything's, things are worse. Things aren't getting better. They're just getting more bloated. There's no innovation, really.
No.
It's all ground. Once the cloud was sort of the last innovator, and nothing's really happening now. It's just become more bloated and it's more costly, but people aren't working quicker. Because you see the likes of these executives, it's the same type. They're in to get a nice cushy job, make as much money as possible, get out.
Right.
And industry isn't working better, it's worse.
Yeah.
Look at things that rely on data. People are dumber than ever in terms of information. Yet with the ability to get more information today.
Not the wonderful viewers of this podcast and listeners of this podcast.
All five.
Clearly, all.
God, we're nearly...
Highly
folks, we're nearly at 400 subscribers. I'm only like 20 odds away from getting 400.
Oh, we've got to do something about that.
It's like getting blood from a stone, honestly. Just click a button, folks. Come on.
It costs you nothing. Damn it.
It's free.
It's a button click.
Yeah. I don't know. We've digressed somewhat.
Yeah, that's what.
Just a little. Good grief.
No, but there is art mirrors life. There are life lessons to learn. And when you see stories, I guess, and how it happens, it does make you think about what goes on in the background.
Yeah.
And then you have an appreciation for your own situation. That's why art is important. Art's what inspires people. We were talking about it last night, actually, with X the Unknown, 1956 film, that the fact that things that inspire people, inspires imagination, and that's what makes you better. It's when you have that spark.
Yeah, it's the creativity. Yeah.
It's things like this that Star Trek's an example, like the tricorder. That has inspired mobile phone technology, medical scanner technology. It's inspired so much because it's not the film itself. It's somebody who has the capabilities going down a certain road, but that's flicked a little switch in their head.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we on the moon already as a launching pad? No, I mean legitimately. As a species, we should already be on the moon. That should be like a shuttling back and forward to at least the base. And bigger ships should be getting built. It should be a space dock. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's more than enough of these movies, and going through the ideas, the inspire imagination, that should really be happening. And the idea of going off world to mine minerals. I mean, that idea has been planted since sci-fi began.
Yeah.
But we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Because and this film's another example, because the lack of imagination, the studios have curbed the imagination. Nobody's been inspired, and it has a detrimental effect on society.
I won't worry, Mr. Musk and his ilk will be forming the equivalent of Wayland Yutani soon, I imagine.
I think that's. Hey, but do you know what? That could have inspired him.
It
could
maybe
be Tesla. You know what I mean? But that's exciting. But that's the only like tiny bright spark, and he's a bit mental as well because he wants to put microchips in people.
Yeah,
he has
just a little bit mental, just a little bit.
Yeah, so he wants to put microchips people while there's people like Zuckerberg about. You know what I mean? That's not good. But that's the only sort of blip in the radar of a world of shit right now because people aren't firing up their imaginations. It's actually being suppressed.
Yeah.
Like this movie.
And there's no profit in it, maybe. That's the thing at the moment.
Yeah, it's
the driving factor behind everything at the moment, isn't it?
It's all very strange. It's like people's priorities are out the window. Like we're looking at the wrong things. But maybe that's just the human condition. Maybe we're just always destined to do that, reach a certain point. Like that's another sci-fi trope, isn't it? Of massive civilizations that reach a zenith of technology and then crash and burn.
They'll destroy themselves. Yeah,
that's you know what I mean. That's always been
bit of a cliche, isn't it?
This film's doing that too, because every time they've encountered this alien, it's never been good. And yet the company still want it.
Yeah. But they seem to want it. I mean, this is the weird thing about that universe as well, isn't it? I mean, we've mentioned the William Gibson script here, which was talking about a war.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall any of these three films, apart from having colonial marines, right, that have mentioned any war or real fighting that's going on. And yet you've got a company that seems to want to weaponize this alien life form, right?
And that's where I said we need to see a ship battle. That's one of these movies should have had a ship battle to give us an idea. But we don't get any inkling at all. I thought, you could picture these as a drop pod, a boarding party. Boom, just fully formed xenomorphs, just let them on a ship.
Yeah.
It'd be absolute carnage.
Yeah.
There's like I said, they just sort of hint at it and then they drop it, and they're not exploring the right things.
No.
And there's more than enough material. Like I said, they could have. I think there's a reason we only get so many of these movies. Is this the case of once a bit like Clive Barker type movies? The studios don't want to deal with the material. It's too big for them. The idea is too big for them to imagine.
Maybe.
I think to a certain extent, though, they are sort of hampered by public expectations as well. I mean, like I say, I think with Alien 3, people were expecting Aliens 2, weren't they?
Yeah.
Because Aliens did so well. They didn't want, people didn't want another Alien. They wanted, they wanted a new Aliens.
Alien was a horror movie. It's a specific niche.
Exactly.
Audience. It's not for everybody, but the Aliens was more accessible. So they just want that popcorn. But at the same time, you still could have got that, including a war.
Yeah, you could.
The UPP, like the only reason we know about the UPP, etc., because we played the role-playing game.
Yeah.
The movie going audience doesn't have a clue.
No, I mean,
Unless you've
no.
got into the RPG, you've no idea about the world building that's went in, and it's
Isn't that's all part of the problem? I mean, your average film goer, they just want to see an alien. They want to see Ripley. They want to.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what they
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
So they don't really give a shit about anything else. You're talking about the average, which is probably why these people were choking on the cornflakes or whatever it was when they were reading a script about a wooden planet with monks. What are you doing? Yeah, get a grip. We don't want that. We want to see Sigourney Weaver kicking ass.
Studio Deck saw that and like, no, the people want this. They want more. They want more like pulse rifles and loads of aliens everywhere. And we don't want anything unusual, something off the wall, something unique.
That first film, Alien, that went down well. There was like one alien that was running around eating people. That's what we want. More of that.
Yeah.
But then more of that other stuff as well.
Yeah.
But don't do it.
But don't do it the same. But don't. Yeah.
And that's what I think. If I had been a UPP squad on the Sulaco, and the cause the Sulaco to crash, and then they followed it.
Yeah.
Job done.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so easy to fix this.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. Like the attempted rape scene in this was just utter stupidity.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of figured.
We had the sense of dread. We got it.
It was, but was that scene not? Do you think maybe to reinforce the integrity of Dylan's character? Maybe.
Yeah.
To kind of let you know that actually Dylan, he's actually, despite the fact that he's clearly a murderer or whatever.
A murderer of women.
He's got.
But he's found
something about him.
Yeah.
And you end up kind of you wanted to see him as a dependable ally for Ripley in this.
But
she's gonna have a reason to trust him. Sorry?
You had that sense with the character acting, so it didn't need to go full bore. You just needed that element of threat. Maybe somebody.
But they need Ripley to kind of trust him.
I think it would have been, to be honest, I think it'd be more weird if something didn't happen, because it would.
I think it was just so ham-fisted. If they had have maybe started to gather in the corridor and weren't going to let her past, then Dylan turned up, and then they automatically dissipated.
Yeah.
I think they went again. It's just, right, let's shoehorn this in, and it didn't fit with the rest of the tone, because Dylan didn't have to go to that extreme of actually physical. You know what I mean? Just showing him being aware, but the fact that he appeared maybe behind her and she thought he was blocking her off, and he went, right, move along, and then let her go about her business, that would have been enough. And it would have been in with the rest of this, but that's another plot hole that just, a scene that just jumped in and didn't fit with the tone of what had been set up.
Yeah.
Because one thing I said, like I said, the characters, that's brilliant. The actual acting is high standard. The tone of the prisoners, the fact that they're trying to repent and find meaning, was good. It was all there.
Yeah.
And
then they do that.
And then they do that, and you're just
I don't buy that though. I don't think they were. I think it was just something. It was just like regimentation, just to like a routine that were keeping them. They were keeping them together, keeping them sane. I think most of the prisoners were clearly didn't really give a toss about the idea of being a religion. Some of them, were openly talking, weren't very religious at all. But it was just it was just something that was.
So, you think they were just kind of paying lip service, because it was more cushy to stay there than it was to kind of be shipped off with the other inmates? Because I mean, I think they say there was 2,000 inmates there or something originally, and there's 25 left. They stayed for whatever reason, and maybe that it was a cushier number than wherever they were going.
There seemed to be some amongst them that were kind of taking on board this kind of religious aspect, but there were some of them were clearly they weren't they weren't interested, weren't religious.
Yeah.
They weren't converted at all. They were just going along with it.
Yeah,
And it was just this kind of structure that were holding them together.
But the alien attacks could have pulled that apart. I just think that scene was just ham-fisted, the way they delivered it.
Yeah. I mean, because we
no
don't
proof,
really know
as you
what
know.
happened to those guys. I mean, does Dylan? I mean, he says he's going to teach them, at the error of their ways or whatever it was. We don't know what happened to them, so clearly they were all part of.
Oh, he beats the shit out of them in the
I mean, he does that.
But does he finish them off or what? You don't really see much of them afterwards, or it kind of just gets
but you can then assume that they are part of that attempt to trap the alien later, or are they? Or are they out of
once
the
again, it doesn't make sense because it's not like you don't get any payoff. It's just a scene thrown in the middle of this setup. That's why I don't like it, because it doesn't do things because they make sense. I assume
I'm not afraid.
I'm not afraid of violence on screen. I'm not afraid of things like that there, but it has to make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's basically been written in there as a way to kind of make him a more sympathetic character, Dylan a more sympathetic character. You're kind of rooting for him towards the end, because he's obviously helping Ripley out. But he's also they got to establish the fact that he's a vicious bastard, and he can kick the shit out of any one of those guys whenever he wants.
Established because they're good.
I mean, yes.
If there were wooden types of characters, yes, you would need to do that. But once again, this is overkill because we've got good actors.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Dutton. I mean,
good characters, so we don't need that. They're showing, they're not telling. In that first scene where Ripley comes in and you get the sense of dread and all, and the interactions with each other, we don't need to be told anymore. We get it because it's done so well, and the sense of menace, the mess hall scene.
Yeah,
there's enough dread and menace there without things being said, and this is this over-explaining, over-showing thing that's prevalent today.
That's the point, isn't it? They're assuming they're thinking the audience are a bit stupid, and they need to be. We need to make sure that they understand that this guy.
I don't know. I don't feel like we're out of place. I don't feel like we're out of place. That scene, personally.
I just think it had been toned down a bit more menacing, not as long. It was just an action sequence thrown in for reasons. I just felt it was very ham-fisted, and it was just, once again, treating the audience as if they're stupid. We'll have to show you this is going to happen because we've told you. I'm like, I don't care. I mean, like I said, it's not the fact.
I almost think the opposite. It would have been weird if it didn't, because there was that sense of menace, and the fact that she is against all advice. She is walking around, and these prisoners that have not seen another woman for what were it 30 years, and then she's kind of walking around, and like I said, so a lot of these prisoners, they're clearly not reborn Christians at all. The rapists and the murderers, and it just seemed like inevitable that was going to something was going to happen. If anything, I thought it seemed a bit. It was stupid that she was walking around like that.
Oh yeah, that's another. That's another. Yeah, that's another.
It was just like that. If anything, that was the odd bit for me, that she was even allowed to. I mean, okay, she did it, but then nobody stopped her from doing it.
Yeah, but that's once again, that's why it's so ham-fisted, because it was just set up to do an action sequence for no other reason.
Maybe.
And that's
it kind of made me warm a little to Dylan's character, I think.
But yeah,
that whole idea, the fact that because when he's first introduced, I mean, you're basically told that he's a murderer, he kills women or whatever it was that he did, and then he steps in and affects some kind of retribution on these guys that are about to attack this newcomer. it kind of made me feel a little bit, I felt a bit better about his character. I thought, he was going to be, he's going to help Ripley.
It wasn't
at
quite
this
the
point. He kind
Vasquez and Norman moment.
No, I don't know, because the Vasquez Gorman thing, I kind of felt that was a bit undercooked. I think personally, a bit forced, in my opinion. That bit. This, I don't know. Maybe it's because this guy is a better actor than either of those people that played Vasquez or Gorman. That he was just able to convey that.
I think that's my problem. Is that the word conveying it? I wasn't under no illusion whatsoever.
Yeah,
I didn't need the theory tested. If that makes sense.
You knew. I mean, you knew he was dangerous. You knew
Yes.
he was a dangerous person. He was a threat. A physical presence in that first scene where you first encounter him. But you're never quite sure, I suppose, whether he doesn't really let on that he's a good guy. If you know what I mean. It kind of makes me think of that scene in the Dark Knight with the guys on the prison ship with the bomb.
Oh,
and
yes,
the big black guy that kind of
easily
takes
just grabs it.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing that I was getting with this character, and
yeah, I mean,
I think that scene reinforced that. It wasn't necessary. You're right. It probably wasn't necessary.
That's what frustrates me about this movie, because it trips itself up unnecessarily so many times. And there's bloody that had all the elements there for a really gripping drama. And that's what makes it, like, that initial scene where they appear and they're talking to the prisoner, you get that sense of dread. The mess hall scene, and that's just purely dialogue. And you get it, you're there and you're in the zone, and then they do something just to throw it away.
Yeah.
And all that work
it's
seems
like,
to be for night.
Yeah. So we've told you this, and we're just going to give you an example now. That kind of
because
it does. But like you say, it does. It shows you his conviction of the beliefs that he's set up. Whereas like I said, the other prisoners, they don't. It shows you that they really don't give a shit about that kind of thing.
Yeah,
he really believes, despite what he's done in the past.
Yeah,
he believes in these
convictions. Trying to turn a corner.
Yeah,
and even if he never getting out again, he's like trying to.
Yeah,
I went down a bad path, but I don't want to finish up like that.
But I mean, if there's things that just seem to happen for no good reason, I would point more towards the
Ripley walking about like nothing's wrong.
Well, but before you even get to that, the bit where he's like, where she's like ends up sleeping with a doctor.
Oh,
Ripley, that was the weirdest pairing ever.
She's weird. She's grieving over the loss of two of Hicks and Newt, and then next minute
after
she's
still trying to.
What are you looking?
Yeah. I mean, that was quick, right? I mean, Charles Dance is a good-looking chap. But yeah, that was. That was
was out of character for Ripley too.
I know,
it was. It was.
I've just got a random itch I need to scratch. Fancy it?
Yeah.
It's like that was not her character.
I know. It was just like, whoa. No. That would just. I mean, if there's one really jarring bit in the film, that is it.
Well, don't forget, I have that down. You know what I mean? It's not like a
No.
That did not pass my notice.
It was kind of Well, I mean, it was definitely an unnecessary. I don't know what the point was, especially seeing as they kill him off so quick after that moment. Why? What was the point? It's not. I kind of figured, was she doing it just to use him to get access to various different parts of the prison? Maybe that would make more sense.
Yeah, but then she didn't do anything like that.
That wasn't. No, that was it. It wasn't. It's like he'd already helped her.
Yeah, and he was he was the one standing guard while she was showering and stuff.
Yeah,
it was already there. And once again, go right back to what I said at the beginning: the fact that there isn't a closed-off staff area. This is a prison. Normal, wouldn't there be like a go no further? Even doesn't matter.
There's that whole thing again. Even if something had kicked off right there, what would anybody have done about it?
Yeah.
Like even though Weyland-Yutani is not maybe the best company to work for, I'm getting that impression from these movies. I wouldn't be putting my CV in there anytime soon. But even they're not going to go, oh, it doesn't matter if the guards die, they're expendable. It doesn't, logic centers don't, it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
And this is where this movie trips us out. It's these silly wee things. If they had it fixed, this movie would have been received much better.
Yeah.
Like, and we haven't even got the dog alien yet. You know what I mean? Which makes no sense.
Well, yeah. Well, it wasn't a dog though, was it? So God knows why they changed that. I don't understand what the thinking was changing.
And now this could be a case of editing, right? And that the scene was actually the remains of an ox that we were seeing. You're talking about that. I mean, you mentioned why is the dog that comes out of the alien as big as the dog or bigger?
Yeah. Bigger. It's actually bigger than the dog.
So I'm guessing that this was an editing thing, and that they'd already filmed the scene with it coming out of the cow.
Yeah.
And spliced it with later footage of it being a dog. Yeah. That's my guess. That's the only logical explanation.
No,
really.
that is this. It's precisely what happened. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. But
yeah.
Why?
So that yeah. I mean, and it was bitter because I guess they didn't want to do any more reshoots.
But it's real. All that stuff with the ox and stuff. It's really good as well.
Yeah.
And why remove it? It just doesn't make any sense.
Perhaps they just figured people would. I don't know. Would people be more upset if it was a dog that got killed than a cow?
Maybe.
Was that the intention? Were they trying to trigger? They were trying to push buttons or something, and
possibly.
But then they use the demon dog, as I said. The demon dog of So they're mixing their own message up.
It was, but that dog never gave you the impression that it was dangerous. It was.
No, but then at the end, why not make it a shepherd? Then you have more sympathy.
Yeah.
Who didn't blub when Sam got killed in I Am Legend?
Did we not?
I did. I don't like that film.
I said who didn't? That's what I mean.
I don't.
No, sorry.
Sorry,
I don't like that film.
No. And it was purely because of what they did to the dog.
No. Sorry, that's a terrible film.
It was a good scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I didn't watch it for Will Smith. I watched it for Sam. Then when Sam went, I lost all interest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, killed the star.
The dog
what are they doing?
The dog out acts the character, the actor. It was a better job.
The dog could act.
Well, I'll give you that.
No, but you know what I mean. It's these decisions that they're making. Like somebody's making a decision one end, let's do this, and somebody's out, but we'll do it this way, and the two don't marry up. And this is throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have them attempt to do it, but we'll do it in a ham-fisted action way instead of we've got the slow building menace, and then do a dopey action scene.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is why it's inconsistent.
It's the execution and the ideas are not joining up together. Let's have a prison planet, but there's no safe area for staff to go. And then maybe they have to make a decision to let the prisoners in.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that would have been neat,
do you know what I mean? These are things that don't cost money. It's just having a good storyboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the frustrating. There's a brilliant movie here.
Yeah.
And it's just
the prison bit always reminds me of Porridge, to be honest. Just in the same way that, like you said, but the governor in Porridge, he kind of wanders around the prison, and he's just, the only bit he's got that's kind of away from the prisoners is just his office.
Yeah,
and all the rest of it is just the prisoners just wandering everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't think it kind of works like that.
No, but like I said, it just.
Man.
So yeah, it was Porridge in space.
Then we get has playing the RPG added your enjoyment of the movies? Yes, but also makes it frustrating with this one because we know there's a world there. That's what we're kind of talking about. If you had have introduced the CPP element, this would have made much better. The third one should have introduced one of the other factions.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the route. I mean, I suppose to some extent. I mean, there's always a lot more world building that goes into a film that's always behind the scenes that you never see.
Oh yeah, and that's but it's necessary.
Yeah, exactly. But like you say, it's a shame that they don't then utilize that.
This was the time to bring that element in.
Yeah.
Another faction.
Well, it was there.
It
was there in the other script as well. In one of the other scripts.
And then maybe we could understand the desperation because the other faction, not necessarily UPP, maybe that wasn't thought of until the role playing game. But
no, the UPPs in the William Gibson script.
Is it? All right.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So the UPP are also aware of the alien and trying to get it, and then that would explain the Weyland-Yutani desperation to try and get it. But then it doesn't explain the United the United Americas? Because Weyland-Yutani is part of the Three World Order.
Yeah, so Weyland-Yutani basically provides they manufacture all the equipment that the United Americas use. And then you've got the other companies of Bionational, that they're one of the rival companies. Yeah.
So this was the movie, I think, to bring in another faction and not just Weyland-Yutani. And then we knew it was an arms race. Then everything would have just clicked into place.
Yeah.
Because even if we didn't get a war, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that's one thing. The first two movies did brilliantly. We were told. We were sort of shown the universe. We were given hints of a bigger, massive universe out there, but it was contained. This one did the opposite. It was contained, but it did, stuff thrown in it didn't make sense. But if I had the hint of another faction, actually another player, not Weyland-Yutani, trying to get the xenomorph,
you can actually still get the William Gibson audio drama. It's on Audible, I think.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. I think I listened to
it. I would highly recommend it because it's really good. It's really, really good.
See, is that the one that actually has Lance Henriksen and Michael Biehn doing the voices, don't they?
It is, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's it's really good because you got, like I say, you got stuff going off between the United Americas and UPP factions and Weyland-Yutani, and I think I might be adding it myself, but I think Bionationals mentioned in that as well. So you've got they're all bringing all that in. But they chose not to use that one.
Yeah.
Even though he rewrote I think
they asked him to rewrite it. They asked him to rewrite it, and he refused. I think was the deal because he was frustrated with the time it was taking them to get the thing moving.
Yeah.
And so he just said, forget this.
It did do a rewrite of it in the end because there's again the second rewrite. Or rather, the rewrite that he did, that then got turned into a comic.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, there's just something else that people don't appreciate is the writers will spend a year, 2 years on an idea without getting a penny. Yeah. They're prospecting. They're essentially trying to put an idea together, spending time, effort, and they're not getting any return from it. It's only in the hopes that the studio will pick this up and he must have to do something, but I'll show him exactly what he said. They're doing it in the hopes. Yeah, I'll be back in a second. In the hopes of getting a return. So there's only so much time you can do that, work without pay. And it doesn't matter whether you're Hollywood or anywhere, you still got bills. So you need to do some sort of paying gig. And writing takes a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they've been working on this for like months, 6 months, 12 months.
You imagine working in a gig economy where you work 6 months in advance without getting a penny?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like I said, when we go to talk about the last Hobbit movie, that was a massive thing. was the time taken before the movie went into production because they were messing about. And
Yeah.
I can totally understand him going, nah, actually I've spent enough time in this. I need to do, I need to get a paying gig. You're messing about.
Yeah.
Either do the thing or don't. And that's another thing I don't understand about, an established franchise should be easy to be greenlit.
Well, like I say, I mean, the fact
It's such a fan base.
Yeah, I mean the fact that there's like that they went through 10 scripts and at least 3 or 4 of these scripts sound really good. The plot of them sound really good, but they went. Although, like I say, I don't think Alien 3 is a terrible film, but they went with that script instead of some of the others. It's just beyond belief.
It makes you wonder just
Yeah.
what the decision making process is.
But like I say, I mean, maybe this was, it was a taste of things to come, wasn't it?
Oh yes. God, this is the cliff edge.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, so maybe this was the tipping point.
And this is before we even get into the CGI. Like the terror. Like, they still used the model for the alien.
The suit was brilliant as well. The bits where you actually see the suit, it looks the practical effects look great, but that CGI is absolutely awful. Even for the time, it was awful.
And I watched the special features and I saw that they were still using a puppet of it upside down, for the movement.
Yeah.
But they just put it so badly against the ceiling that it made no sense. That even do you know why the thing became after Blade 2, the flippy spinny CGI thing? That has been the staple now of every sort of dopey movie like that, where they flip and spin over a wall and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
This was the precursor of it. This is it just sticks you don't see it grabbing onto anything. It just do you know what I mean? Like really bad green screen. That instantly took me out of this. Like any investment I had, once I saw that, I was out. Just like, what are you doing? And Aliens, they had them upside down and crawling along walls.
Well,
why did this look so terrible?
Yeah, it was a weird one, but I thought quite a few of the effects shots were very strange in this film and felt like they were a bit out of place. Now I thought there was I seem to recall there was a lot of CGI in this movie.
There was,
but apparently there wasn't that much. Quite a lot of the shots you see are like puppets, physical puppet or a man in a suit or whatever.
Yeah.
But for some reason they got them on a blue screen, and these shots would come. And they were composited.
It's on a flat screen, and they're operating the puppets. It's upside down, and then they superimpose that onto the shot. But it's done so badly.
The composite, these composite shots, they just looked so bad. And when you think about how, like in the, I think one of the weirdest ones is like when you see the kind of the ship arriving over the planet, and I think. The Weyland-Yutani ship when they're arriving, and then again at the end when you see the planet eclipsed by the sun as if things are, and they just look so shit. Yeah, it was, and when you think in '79 they did a similar shot, and it looked great. I don't know.
Slacko and Aliens looked brilliant. Like
exactly. So why more than anything, 6 years later? Why did they manage to make the effects look so bad? And I don't think they were. I'm sure that those particular effects weren't CGI. I don't believe they were. I think they were also just these weird composite.
It was Babylon 5 bad.
It looks like terrible CGI.
So it didn't look as good as Babylon 5.
Yeah, so they managed to invent terrible CGI.
They did, yeah. Weirdly,
that took me out of this. Like I was, I could forgive a lot of things and go on, but once I saw that, I'm like, just instantly
Yeah.
I was out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Any
It was just
dread,
unnecessary. It was unnecessary as well, because obviously they'd done it before. Like you say, 6 years before you had Aliens.
Mhm.
You know, however many years before that? What is it? 8 years before Alien,
Yeah.
and yet, and the creatures in both of those look pretty damn good. And in here, it was like you were watching a Ray Harryhausen film from.
But the suit, that the guy was wearing in Alien 3.
It was cack. It
Do you
was,
think
yeah.
so? I thought it looked really
Oh,
good.
no, the suit. No,
Yeah, the suit.
No, I don't know if it was that. It didn't look as good as the ones from the earlier films, and yet, but certain effects shots were real good for the time, like the animatronic for Bishop,
Yeah.
which apparently was the most sophisticated animatronic thing at that point that had ever been made, and it looked really good. But did they spend all the effects budget on that?
Yeah, for like
So
a half a
everything else
second.
was just shit.
I think that honestly, and also they spent the money, so it's like, all right, well, we've paid our Lance that we'll have to use him again because we spent so much.
Yeah,
And then like, a weird
I mean,
CGI. We haven't got there yet.
God, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
that's a bit I near died of cringe. I'm like, oh my god, what are you doing? And you can see it coming a mile off.
Yeah.
But they tried to make it that this was a
that.
different xenomorph, that it coming out of a dog or an ox somehow made it different.
Yeah.
And I don't get that. I don't buy into that. Because it's essentially a parasite. It's not
it's not taking on the
it's not
like
taking on DNA.
any
It's
part
not
of the
like
DNA or
engineers.
something from it's
not
not
the black
thing.
goo.
Yeah. It's yeah. I guess they just felt they needed to
A gimmick.
change something. Yeah, make it different just to separate this film from the others in some way. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
Is that not a thing? I thought that. I thought that was that is a thing though, that it does
taking on the DNA of the host.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know. I've not read any of the. I've only seen the
Because
the films,
it like
so
grows it grows like as like a cancerous tumor, doesn't it? It's not like it implants because it doesn't implant the like a baby the facehugger doesn't implant like a baby creature inside. It grows into that. It's like a tumor.
Do you know what you needed then in this? You needed a variety of creatures. You needed a livestock pen and 2 or 3 facehuggers. So there would have been the balance.
Variants.
Yeah, there would have been the balance. Okay, so it's not just the one runabout like Alien, but you haven't got like a whole hive like Aliens, but you've had 2 or 3 in a livestock pen. So a dog, an ox, a horse or something, and have this like an agro section, agricultural section and then explains why this prison planet is self-sufficient.
Yeah, well, like I say, in the whatever.
There you go. There was 3 of them running about. They could have looked different in size and shape.
I mean,
and you would have had the same drama.
You run into a different problem then, in the fact that you've then got 3 creatures to contend with. Whereas you have this climax of them trying to trap one creature. If you had 3, you'd end up having to repeat that.
They could have taken care of it, like the one that came out of the dog and one that came out of sheep. Just as just an example, could have been taken care of. But the one that came out of the ox would have been larger. It would have been a bull. There you go. There's your big bad.
Yeah.
And really, what they spent on this and what they spent on
only problem with that is I think it would have put even more focus on the fact of like where the fucking hell did they all come from? I
mean, yeah, man. I guess.
I mean, when it gets you don't see in the extended cut, you don't see the facehugger getting attacking the ox. They're just they're bringing it in, and it's like dead. It's already dead, which is also a bit odd. And it's infested, and it's infested with all these lice and stuff. And they bring it into where they slaughter all the where they must slaughter all the cattle because there's other like carcasses hung up. But they get all these chains and they like drag it off this cart that they brought it all in, and then they hang it up, and then it's like one of them picks it up. Oh, what's this? And there's a face hugger like laid underneath it.
Oh, so it like melted, went in through the teeth.
So but I don't know. So it's been on its face, and then somehow it's got underneath it when they've moved, they picked up, got the corpse and put it onto this cart to bring it into the thing, and it's like, what?
And you wouldn't cut. Hold on, if something died, you don't.
How does that?
The food chain. If something dies out in the field, like that's basic farming.
Yeah.
You don't bring something into the food chain. You take it to the vets for an autopsy to find out why. Oh, right, it's died. It might be an infectious, foot and mouth.
Let's eat it anyway.
But like I say, so the face must have been on its face. So it's died after that's happened. Then the face hugger's dropped off somewhere, and they've come along, picked up the ox, put it on this cart to bring it back inside. But somehow this dead face hugger is then on the cart underneath the ox. How's that work?
I think they were
trying
to change the formula so much. They twisted themselves into knots instead of just going back to basics.
But it was just like how he held it up. He's like, "Oh, what's this?" and then completely forgot about it. Something held up this dead face. I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
What's this?
Oh, let's bring it in anyway.
Yeah. No. What's this? Let's hang that up here.
That's what I mean. They didn't find it until they didn't find the face hugger until they brought the old thing back into this inside the prison into this slaughter room, and the dead face hugger's on the cart underneath the ox.
Yeah, that would have been bad too.
It wouldn't happen.
Well, maybe they just assumed. Maybe they're not good at biology and just assumed that it was a bit of the cow that fell off. I mean,
just put this on. Oh dear.
No.
But at least that bit sort of went somewhere towards explaining, like some of how they were living and stuff. But
I just think they were too eager to reinvent the wheel. And they've twisted themselves up the knots, and it just shows in the film. Yeah. And the fact that all this drama, that they were, instead of just sticking to the basics and just moving the story forward, it's very strange.
It is.
And then we'll have this weird fisheye view of the alien. Which
I mean, by '93, wasn't that kind of a bit overused already? As that kind of, I mean, we'd seen a similar kind of thing from The Abyss, hadn't we? And films like that. And I'm sure there were a couple of other alien invasion type movies where we'd seen that. Well, War of the Worlds,
probably
in the 50s, right?
In the 50s,
yeah. So we'd already seen that kind of thing a lot, so it was already a bit of a cliche, maybe.
Yeah, another overused element that really
that we'd seen done better as well, probably. Yeah. Did we really need to see from the aliens' viewpoint?
No, it was a bit
no, because the actors, once again, if you had a bad cast of actors, I would understand them scrambling to do everything to show you because they weren't carrying the script. But you have a bloody brilliant cast here who are invested, including the lead actors who want this thing to be a success, and it shows in their performances. So they could sell almost anything with a bit of dialogue, or they're reacting to it, and it's like it's like there's two teams in this. There's the ones directing the cast, and there's the ones directing the actual special effects and scene. And it's like neither of the two of them have seen each other's work, and then they just splice it together.
I know it's almost like they were trying to put in elements of like a slasher film with seeing from the point of view of the killer sneaking up on the victims.
I suppose doesn't that take away a little bit of the mystique,
It's
the
no
mystery
place
of the alien as well, right?
Yeah,
But,
exactly. It does, yeah.
I mean, up until that point, we didn't even know they got eyes, right?
They haven't.
Well, there we go. So,
That's the
you
whole
know,
thing.
yeah,
Well, obviously, we're just a camera attached to the.
yeah, it's kind of a bit of a weird thing to have
Superfluous and
shown.
didn't add anything. And it,
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
it
even
doesn't.
if they didn't have the fisheye effect, right, would that still have worked? It would have still got the same idea across, right? But
the absolute
without
panic.
assuming that, yeah, these aliens, they see things in this weird fashion. No, it's just a fisheye effect, mate. We've seen that before. But I don't know what they were trying to get
No,
out of that.
It was just like another, just seemed to add in another random element that just didn't fit.
I suppose it was cheaper than. Actually, well, I mean, let's look at it this way. It could have been worse because it could have been lots of actors running around screaming, being chased by one of those composite effect aliens. Just
but even if you didn't see the alien, the fact that these guys were selling it,
Yeah.
the thing that was actually the best. When you see them all and trying to work together and in absolute panic, and also they're prisoners. There's a lot of disaffected, not very bright people who don't think. That's the whole point why they end up in prison. The actors are selling it.
Yeah.
Any effects, you just needed the quick them running about and screaming and getting to a door, and then cut to an actual scene with the alien, which we had.
Yeah.
This was a superfluous.
I don't think they've done that in any of in either previous films, did they? They didn't use that like this. This is from the point of view of the alien.
No, they didn't. No, but then again, the alien was supposed to be like unknowable almost, right?
Yeah.
And when you start doing it from its point of view, then I don't know.
It was a terrible idea.
It was really.
Like everything
really
else,
weird.
we can debate about and talk and say yes or no, but that was just no. Bad.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
Like I say, it was almost as if somebody, that's really good when they do them in like slasher films where you can see the killer coming and.
Maybe. I mean, it works. I guess it's kind of worked in other films before. Jaws. Yeah. There's elements, scenes where you're seeing it from the shark's point of view, but then the shark has eyes.
Yeah, it's a completely different film,
and it is a completely different film.
This is
and we know what sharks are.
Yeah,
and I don't. Oh God, I'm gonna be really upset if I'm misremembering this. But don't you see in Jaws as well? Don't you sometimes see from like inside? As if you're inside the jaws, inside the mouth.
Well, I think no.
Am I just? I'm probably thinking of Jaws 3, which is terrible.
You are thinking of Jaws 3. I was about to say I didn't want to upset you too much.
Oh dear.
I shall leave it's Jaws 3 where you see.
That's called trauma.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh well.
Yeah. Jaws 3. Not as good as Alien 3.
Was it Piranha 3D as well?
Yeah.
If you remember that one, that was special.
Yeah,
It was something.
Next week, do that.
I do love Jaws, the Jaws movie. Well, I love the first one.
Yeah.
Second one's not bad.
We could do these at some point. There's nothing stopping.
Jaws, yeah.
This is obviously just because of our choosy slot, we said we'd do these movies. That's why we're not binging them. Like in a 3-week period.
Compare Peter Benchley to George Lucas.
Why? Why would you do that?
Peter Benchley is an idiot.
Was he?
My God.
I mean,
at least he's not coming out and defending Bob Iger.
I actually didn't mind the book. Anyway, we digress, but I actually didn't mind the book too much.
Well, the affair with Hooper and
the affair with Hooper is bad. The affair with Hooper is bad, and the mafia connection is a bit weird.
It's like
but yeah, that's
And then I'm going to spend the
another
rest of my
day.
career trying to rewrite Jaws as a squid, as an octopus, as a oh my god.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah,
Oh,
that's
dear.
just to detract from the fact that I thought the camera was looking through out the shark tank.
Yeah. I may have thought that
Do
Jaws
you know,
3
I think
was
it was your
Jaws
brain
1.
just kind of.
But at least I'm not Peter Benchley.
God. But yeah, this movie, it trips itself up over. There's so many good scenes and so much great characters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they had a good idea, an interesting idea for a location, and they just wasted it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then we'll
definitely.
get. This is like I'm already out with the CGI blue screen xenomorph fisheye looking. I'm already
Weird.
out at that point.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
even when it came to the pouring the lead off, let's restart a lead factory that's been condemned, and with this, it takes a full crew of thousands of people. But yeah, sure, half a
Yeah.
dozen can fire it up again. No bother. In 20th century technology,
Yeah, they came up with all that lead from somewhere.
just sitting there. Yeah,
Yeah, because
that
I mean
wouldn't have went
that
off world to be sold if it was
Oh
already
no, I mean that's
processed.
right. It was. I mean they weren't shutting down the whole plant because.
It's almost as bad
but
as.
Why did the
Anyway.
lead as well? Why did the molten lead go from molten lead to like glowing like molten iron as well? So then when she
to
falls in-
lava, molten
Yeah.
lead to lava, and a
Yeah.
lot of lava. It was yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
why?
and it was a long way down as well when
Do
she
you know
fell
how they could
into
have
it.
fixed this? What they could have done was went to a chemistry lab, any school anywhere, and went, would you melt some lead for me to have a look at it, please? That's what it looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. Not, okay, so what does lead... I mean, you can just picture the writing room. Okay, they're drawing all these pictures, so I imagine lead melting would look like this and fucking volcanoes
I
and
imagine
stuff.
it looks like silver paint.
Yeah, watch it, and it'll flow down like this, and yeah, and then when it hits the vat at the bottom, it'll be like glowing red, like like what we see in the blacksmith shops and things
Any
like that.
GCSE student, they could have just went to any school, not even A-level student, any GCSE, okay, can we use the... God, I can't remember the case. Do you remember the case you used to do when you were...
Well, the fume cabinet
extractor, the
type
fume
stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
So whenever you were doing copper dioxide and stuff, that's what you
Yeah.
did it in, so that you didn't breathe it in. So that's all I had to do. Get that pair of tongs, ceramic. Okay, here it is melted. Right, could you pour it over and put a model on it? Right, that's what it looks like. Okay,
Yeah.
that cost me 20 quid to do.
Yeah.
Now I know what it looks like. Now we can scale it up. It's like the...
Yeah. And then what happens when you pour water over it?
It explodes, of course.
I mean, well, you get that was a very bad bit of CG.
It was that way, yeah.
And then it explodes in a slightly
Do you know
more
what they could
practical
have done?
fashion.
Even they could have got the pottery set out and they made a ceramic alien. If they wanted to
Yeah.
do thermal shock, heat up in the microwave. They could have done. You know what I mean? They could have done that. They could have just filled it with stuff. Made a ceramic alien mold. That would have been quite cheap. Fired up in the kitchen. Once again, what are you talking about?
That's it
40
just
quid.
doesn't look quite as messy. But
What if you filled it up? Filled it up with a bit of mincemeat and stuff.
yeah.
Peter Jackson could have done this for 30 quid. What did they spend on the CGI effect, which didn't work and looked terrible?
Yeah.
I almost
They
think...
spent it on
Actually-
on Bishop's ear hanging off.
I mean,
Yeah.
that
When
And
when
his
they got
mask
hit with
Now.
a fire extinguisher, and after his
And
head
what-
came off.
yeah. But it didn't bother him. Was he a robot in the end? I couldn't figure it out.
I know he said, "I'm not a robot."
I'm not a
Honest.
robot. Here's my ear hanging off after you've just hit me with this lead pipe. And I'm not, it's not going to bother me in the slightest. It's just going to be hanging off here a little bit.
Yeah. Just this huge flap of the side of his head.
It was. And I was sitting there because normally, obviously, when you've seen it in any other of these robots getting hit, there's milk everywhere.
Yeah.
This one, I couldn't see any of that. It actually, I don't think, is he supposed to be an actual bloke who's just had his ear ripped off,
And he's just,
and he's
like,
just casually talking away. Don't do that, Ripley. That'd be really bad. I'd be very upset if you kill yourself now. Yeah, that was weird.
But you
what-
saw the setup for that reveal. Like, that was the worst setup ever.
It's
The
not
ship
even that.
lands, the Utani folks come off, and then, here's the hidden character, just out of oh, that's fucking Lance Henriksen. No, I mean, you knew it was him. You knew it was, here's Bishop. It was so, like, slapping you round the head of, here comes the reveal.
I think it was more a case. I when I first saw that, I didn't think of Lance Henriksen being there at all. I gotta admit, I didn't really care. And so when it's revealed as him, you're kind of more like,
why?
Why? Yeah, why is so? Why are all these robots modeled after him? What?
If they all had been Bishop getting off the thing?
Yeah, right.
That would have been better.
Wouldn't that have made more sense?
Just a crowd of bishops.
In fact, if you'd imagine if it had been Ash, right?
Yes, that would have been much better.
Wouldn't it have been better? Yeah. But it wasn't. It was Bishop. It was just.
They must have spent half his budget in Lance Henriksen. They must have done.
I mean, maybe.
And like you say, it was just like we've got to think of some way we can use him.
Yeah,
we've paid for him now for that half a scene. That's
but they didn't pay for him because it was an animatronic Lance Henriksen. It wasn't even him. So I don't know. That was.
I don't know. There's weird stuff. Like I said, it's.
There are some
the board,
very weird decisions.
This film has been made by committee, and they've just went, let's throw this in, and.
Won't this be a big surprise for everybody when it turns out to be him?
Dun, dun.
Yeah, but I don't know.
They should have given him a mustache.
Climax of this film, that the whole climax of the film was a bit of a
damn squid.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Because we kind of got this whole idea. I mean, like we were talking about Dylan earlier, about his character, and I thought he was cool. I thought he was a great character.
Yeah, it's his best character, probably the best character.
The kind of how he ends up going out at the end of this film, it wasn't very exciting, was it?
No,
it was.
Although he did put up a good fight against an alien.
No, he did. He did.
He got a good few shots in, like.
But I mean, it was. I don't know. You didn't feel like there was anything. I didn't feel anything at that point, and I thought I should have done because it was Dylan. You're right, and they'd made him out to be this kind of this guy who had his own kind of honor, right? And
he was like Billy out of Predator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
same thing. Billy out of Predator.
With a knife. Yeah, he's going to go and take him on with a knife or whatever, and dies within seconds. It's kind of weird because she just climbed out, didn't she? And he stayed down there, and we'd already decided that Ripley wanted to be killed, right, at that point. So it kind of would have made more sense for her to have stayed there because it wouldn't have attacked her.
No.
And holding on to it while he was
and he could have gone up and
then you could have had the character scene of him being conflicted at the very end.
Yeah. But it was just
what was it?
Weird.
And what was it that really narrow part? Supposed to be some kind of mold or something?
I assumed it was.
Once again, it makes no sense.
Maybe it wasn't. Then from the top, it's
because they seem to be moving this platform around which has got this spout to drop
the molds of some sort.
I mean, what is it a mold of? It's just this.
Was it just like a big block thing? So maybe it was they fill it with lead and then it hardens, and then they've got these big blocks of lead that they stick in a hard
block
cargo.
of lead that weighs a ridiculous amount. They can't move.
Yeah.
But then, of course, later it's the same place, and it's turned in instead of this long narrow thing, it's turned to this huge like vat, like from a steelworks. It's all full of magma.
Yeah, which
no, is that not
it wasn't the same
furnace.
Maybe
the
it
whole thing
was.
was just
So
Well, it's supposed to be the
it
first
was
movie.
because you
Movies,
saw the
doesn't it?
furnaces at the end, didn't you? You saw
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
big furnaces kind of kicking all that
But
shit
that was
out.
something completely different, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
was
did,
supposed
yeah.
to be. I don't know.
Was that furnace, that massive, huge furnace? In fact, there was two of them. If you
Yeah,
see on
yeah.
the ending, two of these things that both are lit.
Yeah.
Quite a small amount of lead.
Yeah, like a thimble full.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very confusing, that bit.
It is. But I mean, the ending is probably the worst part of the whole film, in my opinion. It just didn't really do anything or go anywhere.
So which do you prefer though? Do you prefer the one that made it into the cinemas where she's just as it bursts out and she's holding the Queen chest burster in as she falls in, or the one where she just falls? That doesn't happen. She just falls into the lead.
I'd go with the one. The chest burst a bit pointless, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
of course
yeah.
it just happens to burst out, which is
Yeah,
that was a
exactly.
bit, I'd rather have gone for it. No, she just tops herself by throwing herself into the thing, killing the alien queen at the same time.
Yeah.
That would have done it. You didn't have to reveal the thing popping out of her chest
No.
for whatever reason. It just seems a little bit contrived.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
That's what a lead works look like.
That's a very old lead works though.
Yeah, that's
Surely it looks about the right technology
Are
that they
you
were using.
trying to tell us that's Weyland-Yutani tech? That
Probably, but if I had taken something like that, at least it had a bit of logic.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I suppose if Dylan and Ripley had climbed into that though, it wouldn't have looked quite so impressive.
But the skill of
Maybe.
all three of them stood.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Up to the knees or whatever.
Just doing that
Yeah.
fake stair thing, walking down.
Yeah, Ripley could just step out of it. While Dylan says, "I'll hold it here. You pour the lead."
There comes a little crucible. Some more.
And throws a cup of water on it afterwards. Yeah.
Something like that. There's
Yeah.
make it look as if it has purpose. All I had to do was scale something like that up.
Yeah.
So it was, there's the truck. So obviously the lead's getting poured into the ingot, so it gets transported.
I don't understand why it had to be lead. I don't know why they just didn't go with steelworks.
I don't know either. Because
why lead? It's a bit of a strange choice.
So there could have been that would have been your smelting part, I think. There's enough examples in the real world. All I have to do is industrialize it a bit. There you go. There's your chamber.
Look at that. Yeah.
But why not? Why not like a massive? Most people know where a big steel furnace at a steelworks looks like.
And they are huge, right? Some of those.
And I know of people. I know of wife's dad. He used to work at ICI, and there was the big smelters and things as well. Oh, well, I think it was an auntie who was one of the family used to work at steelworks and big smelters, and somebody fell into one of they were cleaning the things out, cleaning the big vats out. And was in there, and before it got poured in and just evaporate.
Wow.
Just gone.
Wow. Ow. That's an unpleasant way to go, right?
But you can. Why not? You can picture that.
But I think that's the problem with this movie. Instead of keeping it grounded, where the first two, even though it's dealing with the fantastical, there was a grounding. You could imagine yourself being there.
Yeah.
This you can't because it's so jarring, disjointed. Even the idea of, right, it's a steelworks, okay, let's leave the prison aspect out of it. Just have it as a remote mining colony.
Yeah.
And then you don't need all that guff. You just had Roughnecks again trying to
Yeah.
just deal
Yeah.
with an alien.
that
So
was
there's
one.
a whole element of scripting you didn't need, because really, did it add anything to the story?
No. Well, like I said, that was one of the scripts. Essentially,
Yeah.
Have it a prison. Okay, we'll just have it as a prison that's getting ready to be closed down. So these are the last prisoners getting ready for transport. Not, oh, we've decided to stay here and the company's letting us because they're going to just spend the money keeping this place open and running at a loss that they decided to close down for no reason. So makes no sense. So have the thing in a state of closure.
Or a space station, which they did in Alien Isolation. That was the plot in that. Closing Anchor Point Station being closed down.
Yeah, it
Loads
was.
of stuff they could have done.
Yeah.
But this just like I said,
We decided we don't like this film anymore. Is that where we've gone?
Not even. I'm frustrated by it. I am frustrated more than that. It's not like if I hate the movie, it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't be wasting my time trying to think of ways to improve it.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
I wouldn't be. I'd just be like, this
yeah.
was shit. Like,
yeah. Like the next one.
Yeah, like the next one. That's going to be a completely different. I won't be making excuses for that or saying if it did this. It's just like, don't make it.
Brad Dourif in it.
Yeah. I mean, it does have Brad in it. That's true.
God, but he's that's a weirdest friggin'. He's in a separate movie. He's in a completely different movie. He's in his own movie. Just, I'm going to do my thing.
It's good. I like the bit that Brad Dourif's in. That's good.
If I had him as the main character, being a mad scientist,
playing a creepy scientist, yeah,
it's cool.
That's the role made for Brad Dourif,
and it's actually good. That bit, it's
yeah, but I mean,
just all the rest of it. It's just
he's in a different movie completely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that bit's good.
But that'll be a different review. This is we're trying to go. This could have just, it was just there, right at the next level to be a brilliant movie. I think that's the frustration I think the three of us are getting with this.
Yeah.
There's a brilliant addition to the franchise screaming to get out, but there's so much interference and ham-fistedness and things thrown in over the top. It's just weighed down with utter nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been really interesting to see if the director had been left to make his film, what it would have been in the end without all of this crap. I mean, I suspect it would have been a better film because
when you have secret codes with the writer, so the studio can't, when you've got the writer get into hiding, that kind of says it all.
Yeah.
When they're just going, no more, I can't do this anymore.
And
but yeah,
and we know that David Fincher is capable of making good movies.
But once again, I'm not sitting here. None of us have went at the start. It's going, oh, David Fincher shit. We're not. We're going,
God, no.
Oh, fuck, poor fella. What the hell did he have to go through? Like, we're with them. We're with Sigourney Weaver going, what did these guys are trying their best. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
It's a bloody studio.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. It's not that we don't like the movie. We're bloody frustrated. I think we're just as frustrated as the creatives.
Yeah. It's a good film trying to get out.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah.
And there's a beaten within an inch of its life.
Yeah. This film was abused. Like this film is an abuse victim.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's
But yeah.
I mean the fact that it's actually watchable at all.
Yeah.
Is a miracle.
Has to say something, right? For the people that did good work on this thing.
Here's the thing, though. I'm afraid to open this. Is it as bad?
Have you not watched it?
No.
Was that Covenant?
Never watched it.
Look, it's still.
I've never watched it.
I haven't. Look, I haven't. Genuinely, have not watched this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm even at this point. I'm going to hold off to the last minute until I'm actually going to review it. I've just heard it's unbelievably shit. That's just
if you view it as part of the Alien series, it's awful.
So here's the question.
I don't mind it so much as if you disregard it as being part of the Alien franchise. I don't mind it too much. It's okay.
And tell me, is it better?
But is it
better than Prometheus?
Oh yeah, it's better than Prometheus. Apart from,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
it's better.
I mean,
It's better than Prometheus. Yeah.
But isn't the wanky thing about that though that they did try to separate Prometheus from the Alien franchise?
Yeah. I mean, so
Anyway, I mean, despite the fact that
The
oh, wait a
director of the
minute,
TV shows went, I'm not doing any of that shit.
it's
There's an article in the channel. I did a video in the article, and the guy that's making the TV shows went, "Nah, we're not doing that. That's crap."
yeah.
It's just It's I mean the whole thing about this is nothing. This is nothing to do with the Alien film. And it's just what we
It's nothing to do with the Alien film except this whole scene that we're going to do here.
It's got all these things
exactly
from the Alien
Yeah,
film.
this
And we're
has got-
alluding to other things from the Alien film. So,
What? Yeah. Oh, but it's not part of the Alien franchise. Then
No.
what the fuck is it, Ridley?
Yeah, I mean
Go to bed, Ridley,
it's got some nice, got some good bits in it. I mean, I like the abominations and some of the things, but I wouldn't regard to consider either of them, either Prometheus or Covenant, as part of the as part of the rest of the films. Is just like because it just can't. It aside from anything else, the just whole story of it just totally ruins the whole thing, all the old premise.
It's stupid. Let's just
It
say
is.
it.
So,
I mean, it is.
We can say that Alien 3 isn't those.
Alien
No,
3.
oh my god,
better.
no.
I mean, I haven't
There's
seen Covenant, so I can't really say anything about Covenant. But
Neither have I.
Prometheus is shit, and Alien 3 is way better than Prometheus.
Yeah, I like the abominations and some of the creatures in Prometheus.
I mean, Prometheus. It looked
Yeah,
It
fantastic.
looks shiny.
It looked
yeah.
very, very nice, but wow,
It
how
makes no sense.
stupid does it think
Yeah.
this audience is?
And we will get to that one. Yeah, that
But, yeah, it
you know what I mean.
makes no sense.
Oh,
So
do we have to?
well,
The tech, the more advanced tech in the past,
like
and
50 odd years
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
it's like-
So anyone who thinks we'll hate this film, no, because it's not that. What we're trying to do is go, why you had a brilliant thing here
Yeah.
and you just studio messed it up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Some
wasted
incredible
10 other
parts to it.
scripts. 10
It
other
did waste
good
10 other-
scripts.
But I mean, the good thing about this script is that it did bring together that great cast. I thought they were great. I thought all of those guys were fantastic.
Absolutely. That's
yeah.
You can't blame the director and you can't blame the actors. Because you see
Nah.
that they were on board trying to make a good movie. And that bit screams at you as much as the ham-fisted stuff the studio's thrown in.
Yeah.
You can tell you're going along with the story, the studio throws something in, takes you out of it. You're going along with the story, the studio throws something in, and it's so obvious the bumps in the road with this that it's studio interference.
Mm.
And I think that's what the frustrating thing is, that makes you annoyed with us, because there's no need. If they had just backed off, don't hire someone if you don't trust them.
Yeah. That's at the end of the day.
If they didn't trust David Fincher, then don't hire him. But you don't hire someone and then stand over their shoulder, especially in a professional role. And this has become more, it's almost an allegory for life, because even professional roles, the more the professional role, it seems to be the more you're babied. It's weird. Like, I've done a variety of roles, and obviously, it seems to be the more professional role you're in, that the more the managers think that you're kids.
Yeah.
And it's a weird dichotomy. It's like, hold on, you've hired me as a professional at a nice salary.
Yeah.
Leave me
Like
alone.
before,
Obviously,
like
I know my
people-
job. I get
People
out
in
of bed
charge who
mornings.
don't know what they do, who don't know the job, like dictating to people who do know the job.
Do you know the job, and they're hired for a speciality?
Yeah.
It's a story now as old as time. Like, when did this phenomenon start? Because it's I think even during the Industrial Revolution, there's still a bit of a, the craftsperson was trusted.
Mm.
I mean, you think of the factories, the linen factories, the actual person that did the job was trusted because they were an artisan. Glass blowers were artisans. For some reason, end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st, that all got thrown out the water. And it's the same with this. You hire a director. Well, you hire the right director, first of all. And if you're putting them in that position. Leave them alone. Let them do their bloody job.
Mm.
Yeah.
Films by committee do not work, and now we've got an whole industry full of it, and it's nobody enjoys.
I mean, you hear it quite a lot now, don't you? The directors being hired, them being fired after they've almost completed the movie or whatever, getting somebody else in who then reshoots the movie.
Yeah,
and makes it less good. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the other one was bad, but at least it would have had been a particular vision, and now it's just some horrible mess that you've made.
disjointed Frankenstein's
Yeah.
monster. You know,
Yeah.
Some stitched together monstrosity.
maybe they'll figure it out, but I don't have any. I don't have any high hopes. But there you go. There you go, folks. That was that.
Yeah,
Thanks
they'll
very
only
much.
figure it
guys,
out.
for coming on.
It's only when it's not going to be profitable to them anymore, and it becomes no longer becomes a mainstream industry. Then things will get back to how they should be.
I think the Hollywood machine needs to die, and it needs to get fragmented out. Smaller studios. I think the streaming services need to not make their own stuff, but just have a good purchasing department. I think that's what they need, a good band department. Just, and studios, production companies are the ones that make the movies with the aims of selling them to a platform. Then there's an incentive there to make something good because they have to sell it.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's too much grifting and too much money changing hands for no return or incentive. You know what I mean? The whole thing just needs to die and get remade from scratch. I mean, and this is an example of, where the direction movie making was going and why it doesn't work. It's the norm now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And nobody goes to the cinema, nobody is excited about movies. Back then, there was excitement.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. Thanks very much for coming on. Appreciate you as always. It's good to talk about these and understand the universe that we're playing the game in.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. No, I've had fun with these. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
No worries. Always welcome. And who knows, we may, outside of the Alien franchise, we might revisit some things. We'll maybe have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Sure. Get it going. But
Talk about something. It's a good film.
Yeah, we might look at
Alien 3 is a good film.
Alien 3 wanted to be a good film.
It wanted to be a good film.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah. We appreciate its
tried
effort,
so
its
hard.
intention. Yeah.
There you go. Thanks everybody that turned up in the chat and who's lurking and not chatting. I see is up there. Don't be afraid to say hello. We don't bite, honest. But there you go. We're playing next week.
We are.
It is next week. Yep.
Is it?
It is.
Thursday we got. It is. Yeah.
Right, is it? No, not next week. No.
It's not. April.
The week after.
Isn't it?
Yeah, 2nd of April.
Oh right, yes. 2 weeks. 2 weeks time, we are back in the world of Alien with the Draconis Strain trilogy, and that'll be fun. But there you go, folks. Thanks again, everybody. Just leaves me to say, keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things. Until next time, keep it freaky, keep it horrific.